Hey guys, welcome back to day 3 of the Ultimate Detox Challenge. I really want to take a moment to just say thank you guys for taking time out of your day and your busy schedules. I have a deep respect for that, to join me and really put your health first. I'm Gary Brecka, and if you've been with us for the last 2 days, you're about to complete something that could possibly change your health trajectory forever. This is the hidden little gems that are hiding in our biology that are robbing so many of us of being in a state of being optimal. So by the end of today, you'll have exactly the daily blueprint to support your body's natural detox sequence every single day for the rest of your life. You can start living a detoxification lifestyle. You'll know how to hydrate. You'll know what foods to eat. You should know what supplements you should be taking to get your phase 1 and phase 2 detox working, to flush your kidneys, to hydrate and mineralize the body. And then, of course, we're going to talk about all things binders, sweat, and everything else today. But first, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you feel that your detox knowledge after the last 2 days has improved? Comment your number in the chat. I want to engage with you. I want to see how well we're hitting this mark. I also want to recap what you've achieved so far. So day 1, if you were with us, you should have discovered why your detox attempts in the past might have failed. And then you learned the correct sequence. We do drainage before we do detox. We have to actually take the trash out before we actually give it to the trash man to remove it. And so getting those drainage pathways open is critical. Stool, urine, sweat, digestion, breath, our lymphatic system, all of those things that need to be operating in order for the toxins that are released from our tissue to have a place to go so that we can then capture them and eliminate them from the body. You now know how to open your elimination pathways safely using your own body's biological systems. Remember, this guide was really meant to be exactly that. This is a guide. You should have been able to download this for free, and you can follow that like a workbook. Don't read it like a magazine. It needs to be studied. There are checklists in there. They're all things that you need to actually open your drainage pathways and start this detoxification journey. Day 2, we learned that you can't detox what you don't measure. So if you really do feel like you have mold, mycotoxin, heavy metal, parasitic, or viral infections because you've already had labs done and you can't put a finger on your weight gain, your water retention, your hormone imbalance, your poor focus and concentration, brain fog, muscle aches, joint pain, those kinds of symptoms are the symptoms that your body is using to tell you that something is going on beneath the surface. So you discovered the exact test that you need to do. If it's not in the budget right now, at some point, those are the tests that are most effective at revealing what's hijacking your health and potentially causing some of those symptoms. So today's achievement is you're going to walk away with the complete daily protocol, morning to night. How do we mobilize, bind, and eliminate? And then how do we repair from the toxin using these toxins using your body's natural intelligence? I'm a much bigger believer in what God gives us than what man makes us. And if we get what God gave us working properly, then we shouldn't build up these toxins at all over time. Your symptoms are not the problem. They're the messenger. And today, we're going to get a complete roadmap to address what your body's been trying to tell you. So comment ready if you're excited to get to your final piece of the puzzle. Okay, I'm going to head over to the whiteboard. I always believe in being very authentic and transparent. I'm going to go back to my own testing. I'm going to tell you what toxins I had in my body, how I got those toxins, what I traced them back to, so that if you're experiencing similar symptoms to what I was experiencing, and I'm about as diligent as anyone I know with my food, my water, my air quality, my biohacking strategies, my sauna sessions. So if it can happen to me, it can happen to any single one of you. So I'm going to head over to the whiteboard for just a quick second. So this is, let me show you this so you can see when it was taken. So this is my Vibrant Wellness Test, Gary Brecka. And there's my date of birth, so now you know how old I am. So this was taken on January 15th, 2025. So this year, just a few months ago. What was astounding to me, and maybe astounding to some of you guys, is that I had quite a number of rather severe, I'm going to try to blow this up as much as possible, aflatoxins, ochratoxins, mold, mycotoxins, and fungal toxins. Just so that you know, I'm going to tell you where I trace these exact toxins back to. The majority of these came from nuts and from organic coffee that was not certified mold-free. So there are a few places that I think you should make an attempt to balloon your budget just a little bit if you're going to be eating those things. I'm a big fan of nuts. I was traveling with them. I was putting them in Ziploc bags. What I found was that I was storing these nuts, pistachios, almonds, walnuts. I don't eat a lot of almonds, but pistachios, walnuts, macadamia nuts, and the big offender were pine nuts. And I love those things. I was eating tablespoons of those in raw yogurt, excuse me, every day. And I actually sent these glass jars of nuts that I'd been buying in bulk to a lab, and I found the exact toxins that were in there. So in an effort to just be fully transparent, I'm going to show you, what these toxins are. There's a group of toxins called aflatoxins. Let me increase the size of this thing here. When you look at these different toxins, in comparing the genotoxicity of different aflatoxins, studies indicate aflatoxin B1 is the most toxic aflatoxin, followed in decreasing order by G1, B2, and these other G2 toxins. Don't worry about these names. I don't want you to get wound up in trying to pronounce all of these or understand specifically what each one of these is. The important point is these are toxins that are found in our grains. Grains is a major offender. So if you're eating grains, maybe switching to a grain-free diet or making sure that you're buying mold-free grains, that you're buying grains, if they're packaged fresh, they're non-GMO, they have a tendency to be lower in these toxins. When we have high amounts of glyphosate, which is packed into grains, soy, wheat, corn, that is a breeding ground for these toxins because, believe it or not, some of the pathogens that are killed by these insecticides and herbicides, they're actually toxic to the molds and the fungal toxins, and so they proliferate in grains especially and stored nuts. For me, I also traced it back to my my organic coffee that was not certified mold-free. So what I want you to see here is I'm going to highlight a couple of these: the CHA toxin, the dihydrocitronone, this fusimins. Well, that fusimins wasn't that high. The fusimins B3 was very high. The zearalenone. So I want you to just remember Zen, Cha, and this B1 toxin. Okay, see how these toxins were off the charts on me? Do you see how these toxins were way up here, all the way pegged out into the red? I mean, this was shocking to me. What was really interesting is they talk about this being cytotoxic to the kidneys. One of the things on my, if you've ever had a comprehensive metabolic panel done, and if you've had basic blood work done, you should have something called a CBC, the complete blood count. And then the next section of that blood work is usually something called a CMP, comprehensive metabolic panel. You'll see levels in there like your sodium levels, your potassium levels, your magnesium levels, but you'll also see your kidney function. And the way we look at kidneys on a basic panel is three ways. We measure something called eGFR. That is your glomerular filtration rate. It's actually the rate at which blood is moving through your kidneys. Remember, 15 times every single day, the full volume of blood in your body passes through your kidneys. So your kidneys trap waste, they methylate it into something called urea, and they discharge it into the bladder for you to urinate out. You can actually test that discharge, that urine, and you can pick up these toxins that are exiting in the urine. When you see them in the urine, which is how this Vibrant Wellness test captures them, you know that your kidneys are full of these toxins and it's trapped some of them, but the rest of them are actually seeping through and appearing in your urine. I noticed that my eGFR, my filtration rate, had gone down, which means that there's inflammation in the kidney. The kidney is a filter. So just like a filter in your air conditioning system at home, if it gets clogged with dust and hairs, the filtration rate is going to slow down. So your GFR, your eGFR, your glomerular filtration rate begins to slow, and then the poison levels begin to rise. Something called blood urea nitrogen, which is listed as BUN on your labs, and something called creatinine. That's not creatine, it's creatinine. It's a breakdown, muscle byproduct breakdown that the kidney filters out of the blood. So just see how I had these toxins pegged at the highest end of the range. I want to show you this date. Okay, so this date was 5/12, so this was May 12th. So what is that? February, March, April, May. So about 4 months, I followed this detoxification protocol. Remember I asked you to try to remember the really nasty ones, the B1 toxins? Remember how this was pegged out all the way in the red? Remember the citrinin, the CTN toxin was pegged out all the way in the red? I'm going to come back to this ochratoxin in a second. That's an important one. But remember I also asked you to, I'm not doing a good job here. I'm going to ask you to also remember the Zen, right? That one was all the way as pegged out as it could get. The CHA was all the way over here in the red. So these were the aflatoxins that were specifically toxic to my kidneys. And as a result of this, my EGFR, my glomerular filtration rate went up. So the filtration rate went up, blood urea nitrogen and creatinine came down, and it was proof positive that these fungal toxins and these aflatoxins were actually having a physiologic impact on me because they were slowing my kidney filtration rate. So now the majority of these that were all the way pegged out in the red have come back down into the green, almost down into the non-existent loan area. I was really excited about this one because this is a particularly nasty toxin. I want to talk about this Ochratoxin A, okay? Why this one stayed high. Because at this point, I was only aware of the nuts, the stored nuts that actually had these toxins in them, and I'd eliminated those from my diet. I'm not a big eater of grains. In fact, I don't eat any grains at all. But if you are eating grains, that is another enormous source of these mold mycotoxins and aflatoxins. I will also tell you, I did a little post on this, I think yesterday or the day before. There are a lot of people that cold soak rice. So you buy white rice, which is totally fine. But instead of boiling it, you put it in a dish and you cover it with water and you put it in your refrigerator and you allow it to cold soak and become edible and soft by cold soaking overnight. That is a terrible idea to do with rice. Rice grains are full of mycotoxins, fungal toxins, and boiling will kill them, but cold soaking will not. So if you're one of those people that still cold soaks your rice, I'd really prefer that you switch to boiling your rice the way that it's on the back of the package for 45 minutes. And then simmer it and then eat it, and then it's very safe to put in your refrigerator and even eat the next day. But cold soaking rice is a huge source of these toxins. So Ochratoxin A, this is the one that was specific to my coffee. And I'm not going to rip on any specific brands of coffee right now, but I will tell you that I bought an organic brand in a gold bag from Costco. And it was a great deal, and it came in a big bag of coffee beans, and then I would grind it down, and I would put it in my coffee maker or in my French press, and this was the source of the ochratoxin. So I will share with you my other test. I was able to get the ochratoxin completely eliminated down into the, back down here into the very low end of the green range. But I was able to find it in my coffee, and now I've switched to a mold-free version of coffee. So just being organic or free trade does not mean that the coffee does not have mold. And it has to do with the way the coffee is grown, the way it's stored, and the way it's transported. If you think about rice, grains, coffee, a lot of the ways these are transported is they're harvested and then they're dumped into the back of these enormous trailers, 18-wheeler size trailers for transportation. They're usually in hot, moist climates when that happens. And just like a pile of dirty laundry, the surface is fine, the edges are fine, but as you get towards the center of this pile of dirty laundry, if you actually just left a warm, soggy pile of laundry on your floor and you started to peel back the layer of those clothes, you might even see mold in between the layers of your clothes. The same thing happens with coffee, rice, grains, corns, wheat, and soy. So those things are really things that do well if you cook them. Interestingly, I started to go down the road of this ochratoxin A because it didn't make a lot of sense to me that the mold that was appearing in my non-mold-free coffee was then showing up in my bloodstream. And I thought naturally that the process of making the coffee was hot enough, but if it doesn't come to a full boil, it's not enough to kill those toxins. So I have one of those, like fancy smanchy German coffee makers that breaks down all the time that you need a freaking PhD to get a cup of coffee out of. So I thought that it was making the water hot enough to actually kill the mold. It wasn't. So if you do boil the water and put it in a French press, that's another way to get around that. But for you coffee drinkers, and I'm a big fan of coffee because of all the polyphenols, there's some benefits to caffeine. This is where you want to make a switch to a certified mold-free coffee. So I just wanted to show you guys my results because I went on this journey. What I'm teaching you works. It worked for me. It's worked for thousands of my patients. I want you to see these as we move into my VIP group. I'm actually bringing some of the VIPs up on stage, walking them through this detoxification process, and we're going to look at pre and post lab results to see that this really does work for you. Okay, let's go back to the camera. All right. Who's excited to have Dr. Josh Axe on? I know a lot of you guys have been commenting before when you found out that Dr. Josh Axe was on. Josh Axe is coming on. Dr. Jessica Petros did an amazing job yesterday. I know several of you have already connected with her. Dr. Buskowitz, Dr. B, who I've done podcasts with, did an amazing job on the gut. So before we bring him on, I just want to remind our new viewers that if you missed yesterday, you can catch the replay. If you want to go deeper, our VIP members are getting exclusive content, very advanced protocols, daily giveaways, monthly live Q&As with me, which we're having one right after this session. We have another one tomorrow. Plus next week, all of my VIPs get my complete 12-week heavy metal cleanse and a guide to an 8-week mold detox protocol. These guides will have recipes, supplement guidance that I can't give on YouTube, and so much more. And these are available. These are only available through the VIP group. The upgrade link is in the description. You can cancel anytime you want. So whether you're a VIP or not, what we're covering today could be the game changer for you. So I'm not holding anything back from you that are attending free on YouTube. Just some people want a much more detailed guide, sort of a step-by-step with recipes and everything else, and we can't give that out on YouTube. So today's mission is simple, but it's powerful. I'm going to give you the exact daily protocol to support your body's natural detox sequence. That's why I brought Dr. Josh Axe here today. Dr. Axe has spent decades mastering natural detox protocols, food-based healing, and longevity practices that work with your biology. So not working against it. He's going to show you how to turn everyday habits into powerful detox tools, a lot of what we've been talking about here. So how do we use food as medicine? You hear me talk all the time about how whole food diet is medicine, connection is medicine, sense of purpose is medicine, and how do we build a sustainable practice that supports a really long, healthy lifespan? The difference between someone who heals and someone who stays sick is that the person that heals is actually developed the habits of a healthy person, and they follow a system. So the person who stays sick just follows trends. And I want to keep you off of the detox trends and get you into a lifestyle that can really help you heal. So before Dr. Josh Axe joins us, we're giving away a Cold Life Cold Plunge today, one of my Ultimate Human Lights, to one lucky watcher on YouTube. So it's not just any cold plunge. This is a premium unit. It's worth over $2,000. It can transform your detox journey and your overall health. I will give it away today before we get off the live. Cold exposure is one of the most powerful tools for a lot of reasons. It activates brown fat, which is our thermostat. It converts a calorie into a measure of heat, right? There's a cost when you lower your body temperature to returning back to not just ambient temperature in the room, but above ambient temperature to 98.6 degrees, and that happens by burning brown fat. The second thing it does is it releases cold shock proteins. These are reserved proteins in your liver. These are phenomenal proteins. They're being deeply studied now for their impact on insulin resistance, improving insulin sensitivity, on scouring the body of free radical oxidation, on improving the rate of protein synthesis, which is muscle repair. And these are natural proteins, reserved proteins that are held in your liver that come out during heat and cold exposure. Also, it stimulates the vagus nerve, which causes a release of dopamine. That's the main driver of behavior. One of the reasons why you feel so alert after getting out a cold shower or a cold plunge or a cryotherapy session is because you've had a bolus dump of dopamine, which actually can last up to 6 hours. It also increases norepinephrine, which is good for your short-term recall, for your processing speed, and it supports lymphatic drainage, which is the waste repository in our body that does not have the pressure of the heart behind it, like arteries and veins. It's moved around the body by movement and muscular contraction. So cold plunging is also good for that. If you want to win the cold plunge, just comment cold plunge in the chat. Give me a quick blurb on why you think you need this in your detox journey, and just make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. That's it, and I'll announce the winner at the end of today's session at 1 p.m. Okay, so we're going to bring on Dr. Josh Axe. Dr. Axe, welcome to the Ultimate Detox Challenge, man. Thank you so much for joining us today, brother. I think you're muted. Yeah, you're muted. The team's asked you to unmute. You look great, but you sound terrible.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Hey, Gary, thanks for having me. Great to see you.
Yeah, man, great to see you too, brother. Great to see you. Can you start by telling my audience a little bit about yourself and your background in detoxing? A lot of them know who you are, but for those that don't, I want them to get to know you.
Yeah. Well, first off, I got into the whole functional and cellular medicine industry via my mom being so sick when I was a kid. She was diagnosed with cancer twice. The second time we went through an all-natural protocol, really focused on detoxification. We studied a lot of the work of Max Gershon, along with Joanna Budwig, and a lot of even Chinese medicine and even the Bible, and focusing on how do we really detox the cell? How do we detox the liver? How do we heal the body via detoxification? And so that really led me into functional medicine. I'm a doctor of natural medicine. I'm a chiropractic physician and a certified nutrition specialist. And my real big focus is helping people heal using foods, herbs, and lifestyle medicine. And so I love what you've been doing, Gary, here, and just helping people heal with real tools without side effects. And so excited to dive in today.
Yeah, we really had some amazing testimonials on the VIP group yesterday. Just people that had gotten back to the basics and had just dramatic changes in their health journey. So when it comes to daily detox routines, what do you consider kind of the non-negotiables, things everyone should be doing consistently to just support their body's natural detox pathways?
Yeah, and I think it's a great question, because I think generally speaking, our lifestyle should be a detox. In fact, one of the things I wrote recently a book was I eat like I have cancer every day, right? And when I watch you on your social pages, Gary, or when I visited you in Miami, like you are acting like you have cancer today, like you are detoxing daily. It's a lifestyle. And so we want to do the very same thing. One of the first things is hydration. I read a study that said, the majority of people are chronically dehydrated. It's
85%.
There you go. It's causing chronic headaches. It's causing chronic constipation. It's causing just brain fog and toxicity, a number of issues. And remember, hydration is H2O plus electrolytes. So you need water, you need electrolytes as well. A lot of our electrolytes we can get via fruits and vegetables. We know that watermelon and coconut water and just general vegetables, bell peppers, celery, these are foods that are very, very rich in electrolytes. So I would say getting more water. You want to do about half your body weight at least in water, and if not a little bit more than that daily. And
when you say half your body weight in water, like
I'm sorry,
I weigh 200 pounds. You're not saying drink 100 pounds of water.
Ounces. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
I'm
ounces.
Sorry.
Good.
Half your body weight.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah,
because me drinking 100 pounds of water is a lot of water.
That's right. So if you weigh 180 pounds, maybe shoot for around 100 to 120 ounces of water a day, something like that is about right. So hydrate. The second thing I would say is, vegetables and certain types of fruits are your natural detoxifying agents. And there's actually two flavors in particular that tend to enhance our detoxification pathways, and it's the flavor of bitter and sour. Bitter acts on your liver and gallbladder, causing you to release more bile. So your body will actually dump and release more toxins, when you have more bitter foods in your diet. And they also help you better with something called phase 1 liver detox, and it helps you better absorb fat soluble vitamins. And in the
Oh,
United
good.
States, in the Western world, we're all about sweet and salty, okay? But we're totally missing out on bitter and sour and umami. So getting more of the bitter sour specifically, and just more vegetables, more cruciferous vegetables, more green leafy vegetables. For many people, I think they're going to better digest cooked vegetables. So making sure they're in a soup or they're sauteed in a healthy type of like olive oil or coconut oil or ghee or tallow. And so getting more of those vegetables. Certain types of fruits are great for detoxification, especially berries, kiwi, pomegranate, pineapple are going to be good as well. So you want to up your intake of those foods. And here's another one that's going to surprise some people: liver. Actually eating liver or doing a desiccated liver supplement. There's a ancient principle and it says like heals like, or like supports like. So if you actually eat liver, it's nature's B vitamin. It also supports liver detoxification. In fact, Max Gershon, who put together probably the most successful cancer protocol
Yeah,
in
the
the
Gershon
19
protocol. Yeah.
and he would have people eat primarily vegetables and raw liver. And
Wow.
that was the big part of the protocol. So that's good. And the third thing I would say is you want to make sure you're eliminating. You want to make sure you're having healthy bowel movements. Your colon, along with your liver, is one of your main detoxification organs. So do everything you can to have at least one healthy bowel movement a day. You want it to be firm, and you want to be regular there. If you're having issues there, I think the biggest fixes for that tend to be better hydration, which we hit on,
Hmm.
more fiber in your diet. And there's a specific type of fiber we'll hit on here in a little bit that I think is really good for people to get. And I
Great.
would also say magnesium and more probiotics. If you can, I mean, really, magnesium is the mineral that helps regulate bowel movement. So around 300 to 600 milligrams a day of magnesium is also really, really good there as well.
Yeah, we talked about the citrate, the 3 and 8 for sleep, the citrate, for helping move the bowels. Dr.
Yeah.
Buskowitz actually echoed just what you said on day one, if you guys were on for day one. If you notice, all three of these physicians and myself were all saying the same things, right? A lot of people start a detox because they're constipated instead of fixing the constipation before they start the detox. And this is why detoxification can make you really sick, or it can make you really healthy. That's why we keep talking about opening the elimination pathways first. I know you're a huge advocate for natural binders. We're going to talk about binders
Yeah.
today. I'm going to go really deep into them on the VIP session. But can you explain how binders like zeolite or citrus pectin or activated charcoal, how they work differently in the human body, and why the
Yeah.
timing matters for binders? Because a lot of folks
Yeah.
that were here on day one started taking like activated charcoal binders with their breakfast. So they actually are eating the binder with the food. And I want you to
Yeah.
explain why that doesn't work, and maybe a little bit about timing on binders.
Yeah. Well, most binders work because of their structure. Okay. So there's a certain molecular structure that allows them to bind to metals and a number of other toxins, just sort of clearing them out of your system. And I would say, certain binders you can do more long term. Some you want to do more only for a short period of time because they'll actually bind to too many minerals in your body and it can
Hmm.
deplete you over time. But I'm a big fan of zeolites. Zeolites are a volcanic substance like a soil. And these zeolites have a very specific structure that are very good for radiation in particular. And so I think that's a really good binder. I also like chlorella for that as well. Chlorella actually binds to radiation. There's studies out of Asia showing where they actually had some of the atomic bombs going off and showing that
Hmm.
when people consumed chlorella in particular, it was
Hmm.
very effective at helping remove mercury and lead and other heavy metals. But I would say zeolites are really good generally to do long term. So is chlorella. Another one I really like is pectin. Now,
Yeah.
citrus pectin in particular, there's some great studies on this for cancer. And so,
Wow.
and we know that cancer in particular, one of the contributing factors is toxicity. Okay, there's lots of studies showing chemicals like glyphosate or a certain type of endocrine disruptors contribute to cancer. So, so pectin or citrus pectin has a lot of properties of binding to toxins, removing them from the body. That's another one you can do long term. And I like even adding those to smoothies. You could do typically just about a half a teaspoon or so of citrus pectin, or apple pectin is also great. But adding pectin to and it's a form of fiber. It's related to fiber, and so it's very good for cleansing the bowels and even parts of the cell. And then the last couple I want to hit on, and these are, you want to be careful with these for long-term use, and that is activated charcoal and a clay like a bentonite clay.
Mm.
Activated charcoal, I tend to recommend that around if somebody's getting their amalgam fillings removed. I have them do it the day before, the day of, and a few days after. If somebody is doing a mold detox protocol, it's a really good binder for that, or for parasites. So if you're doing a really intense protocol for, let's say, 2 weeks,
Hmm.
charcoal is amazing. However, it binds to everything. Okay.
Yes.
So it will even bind to minerals. So to your point, Gary, in the mornings, you don't want to do it with your supplements. You don't want to do it around meals. You want to do at least 2 hours, even 3 hours away from your meal. So you want to do it in between meals. If you're going to do it, or right before bed. But again, I don't like taking it. You never want to take it with your supplements or with your food. Okay. And
Yeah.
long
Okay.
term, I guess if it's a micro dose, maybe it could be okay, but it tends to back people up over time and cause constipation if they take it too long. So I tend to recommend charcoal. If it's not a ultra micro dose, I recommend doing it for a period of time as part of a detox protocol, and then getting off of it when you're not doing that detox protocol. And clay is similar. Clay you can take for longer periods. It doesn't need bind as much. It's really good for conditions like IBS-D with diarrhea. But clay is another one I think that's a really good option to take long term. But you do want to
Yep.
take that away from meals as well. It doesn't bind to near as many minerals like charcoal, but still good. And the last thing here too, when you take charcoal, I really recommend taking higher doses of magnesium too, because that'll kind of lessen the effects of blocking your bowels. So taking a
Yep.
high dose of magnesium around at least 400 milligrams, even up to 1,000 milligrams for that period of detoxification can be great as well.
So, interesting that you mentioned the zeolite binders and radiation. My wife sage has a very high sensitivity to dyes, so she can't do methylene blue IVs. Recently, she had a minor tear in her bicep tendon and her rotator cuff. She went in for an MRI. They wanted to do an MRI with contrast. I'm just going to share this with the audience because this may
Yeah.
happen to someone that either you or someone you love. Excuse me. So they did an IV with contrast, and when I say it wrecked my wife, I mean it completely took the legs out from under her. She got something called gadolinium poisoning.
Oh, wow.
Gadolinium is the part of the radioactive isotope that they use to draw the image in there. Her mood flattened significantly, and then she had not quite anaphylaxis, but severe migraines, muscle aches, joint pain. I was not really a big fan of her getting the dye contrast, but my orthopedic buddy insisted that we do it so we could know how to put the stem cells and exosomes into her shoulder, exactly which part of the rotator to treat. So we went forward with it, but the good news is we are using zeolite as a very effective binder, along with sweat, along with, in her case, hyperbarics, hydration, all the protocols that I'm talking about on here. But if you've ever had a sensitivity to an IV that was done with contrast, so like a CT angiogram or anything like that, and then you felt awful, or your loved one felt really bad afterwards, you might not have traced it back to that dye contrast that they used in the IV. And so if you are about to get a dye contrast, or you have some kind of injury that they want to image with a contrasting, or even cardiovascular imaging with contrasting, just make sure that post that contrast you use the zeolite binder. It's very good for the gadolinium that's in these radioactive isotopes. So I wanted to throw that out there. So what are some of the most overlooked detox tools in nature, like foods, practices,
Yeah.
or herbs that people are not using but should be incorporating into like a daily routine?
Yeah. Well, number one, and this will probably surprise some people, but it's sunbathing. You know,
I know.
I mean, I'm a big fan of infrared saunas and infrared light. I've got an infrared sauna at my home. In fact, I have an infrared light blanket. I've got all kinds of infrared stuff, and I use it regularly. However, those same infrared lights that we have in our homes, the sun has those same rays, even stronger, and many other types of light. It has blue light. It has green light. It has many different types of infrared and different color rays and lights that actually help support and empower our mitochondria, support detoxification at a cellular level. So sunshine is really powerful. We know even vitamin D levels getting higher has benefits for immune strengthening and even a level of detoxification in terms of killing off pathogenic microbes in our bodies. So loads and loads of benefits of sunbathing. And so that would be probably number one in terms of a nature protocol. The other one I would
It was in
say
day one of our protocols. Great. I'm glad that you
is,
mentioned that again.
yeah, it's fantastic. Another good one would be I mean, grounding is great. I think just spending more time in nature. Japanese medicine, Japan has the longest lifespan of any country today. And they actually have a blended type of medicine that they practice. It's called Kempo. It's a form of Chinese medicine that's used oftentimes with more functional medicine. And it's part of the reason they have the longest lifespan. But these practitioners, one of the top things they recommend for healing is something they call forest bathing. And it's just going and spending about 2 hours in nature at a time and going out there, walking, sitting, just doing deep breathing while you're sitting in nature, living in a state of gratitude and just sort of living in awe and reverence while you're there. And so forest bathing is a really powerful way as well. And you'll notice too, the more time you spend outside, the better you'll sleep at night. What that's even doing to your circadian rhythms. And then when you're sleeping at night, really 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. is when you're doing liver detox. 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. is when you're doing colon detox. And so optimizing that is very important as well. But I would say that would be the second thing. And then in addition, in terms of herbals, there's a lot of herbs that support detoxification. Probably the most potent for the liver that can be done long-term is milk thistle. What milk thistle does, it helps detoxify excess estrogen. And most people don't think, Gary, of your liver as being a hormone balancing organ. But honestly, it might be the single most important thing. I mean, estrogen-based breast cancer, men that have low testosterone, oftentimes it's estrogen, blocking or causing some of that that testosterone to stay lower. So doing milk thistle is very good. It's also been shown to detoxify heavy metals, radiation, even regenerate liver tissue. So milk thistle, you can just do that as an herbal tea. Just buy milk thistle tea, drink that regularly. For women with PCOS or infertility, it's powerful as well. So that's probably my favorite detoxifying herb. And then dandelion's great. What's interesting is milk thistle helps phase 1 liver detox, dandelion phase 2. So dandelion, now I do want to say this.
Dandelion's excellent for the kidneys too.
Exactly. And you mentioned even the some of those dyes, that tends to be more kidney-ish related. So dandelion is great for that. And you can even do cranberry juice is another good one I like for the kidneys. But dandelion, I do want to say it's a diuretic. So it means you'll excrete more water. So if you're doing lots of herbal teas like dandelion milk thistle, you do want to increase your water intake and hydration some in order to balance that out. And then another favorite, just to throw one more out there, cilantro. I would say just adding more to your food. My wife and I have just a backyard herb garden right now where we're growing a lot of basil, parsley, and cilantro. And I'll just take a handful of cilantro, throw that in a smoothie or throw that in some hummus or a chicken dish. The same there with parsley. So just doing more of those herbs. And Gary, we consume less herbs in America than almost any other country. I know you've traveled the world. I'm always seeing you, go to you spending time in Dubai and Europe. I mean, if you go to
they have like whole herbal sections in the grocery store where they have jars with herbs that you can kind of buy in bulk, and then they have the bagged herbs that you can buy. It really is astounding when you start to travel, especially places like India, Japan, even Singapore. I see it in Dubai. I mean, these big sections of herbs that you can actually buy in bulk, and I never see that here.
Yeah, and so to your point there, just use a lot of herbs like they do in other countries. If you're making burgers, add in loads of rosemary and basil. Same thing if you're doing chicken. If you're making hummus, throw a tablespoon of turmeric in there. So just use more of those herbs, but probably some of the most beneficial for detoxification are going to be dandelion, milk thistle, cilantro, and then turmeric are some of the best.
Okay. I actually asked my team to go out and grab this dandelion tea that I've been taking lately, because after I
Awesome.
went on my sort of Ochratoxin, Aflatoxin detox, I did see that my EGFR, my filtration rates in my kidney dropped. They're back, in the high end of optimal range now. But I did use a whole leaf tea, because a lot of those tea bags will have
Yeah.
microplastics in them. And I forgot the brand. I have no affiliation with this tea company, by the way, but I found it to be amazing. And they had these whole leaf teas, dandelion, and other herbs that came in whole leaf, and it's fully organic. So I actually used that, and I saw my numbers come right back. So if you have people that have kidney issues and you actually want to help flush the kidneys, what was this called? It's from Full Leaf Tea Company.
Yeah, it's
The
great.
camera can fix on that. Can it see it? It looks blurry, but like I said, very inexpensive. I have no affiliation with them. I have no affiliate link for you, but basically, the ingredients were organic dandelion, ginger, marshmallow, ginkgo, and red clover. And I did find that these, the whole leaf version of these, rather than the tea bag version of these, you can make it in a French press, like you make your coffee. Just put it in the bottom and French press it, let it steep for a few minutes. Was amazing. And now I just love the taste, because it feels clean to me. It just feels very clean. So when you're buying teas, guys, try to buy them in the whole leaf version. Whether or not you use this company full leaf tea or not, doesn't matter to me, but the whole leaf versions. So for people that are living in toxic environments, like cities or industrial areas, what are like some daily or weekly habits that would help them build resilience and support ongoing detox without kind of overwhelming their system? Because we have a lot of people logged in from major metropolitan cities, Boston, New York, Washington, D.C. They're heavy commuters. They're actually spending a lot of time walking around in city or industrial areas. So that was kind of a common question that we got from our group.
Well, one thing I think we want to just think about is, one, reducing our toxic exposures. I think that would be pretty high on the list. I mean, that's where I really like doing, having a water filtration system. I mean, is a really good idea. I would say, whether it's reverse osmosis or even things like a Berkey Aurora filter, but generally getting the fluorine, the chloride, all the medications. I mean, it is. I know you've covered this too on your show. I've covered this on my podcast quite frequently. The amount of toxins in our water supply.
Oh my God, the PFAs, the polyfluoroalkyls, unbelievable.
It is so high. It is so high. So, I mean, if there's one thing you want to do for your home, getting like, we just have a Berkey Aurora just kind of sitting there on our counter. We also have a whole house filter, but that's a great thing to do. I would also say, and when I say this, I think you want to be, it is very, like, my focus, Gary, and I know you teach this to a degree as well, is that personalized nutrition. I mean, some people do fine with nightshades. Some people, it wrecks their body. Okay. So you want to be very focused on the individual. And I do think that closing your eating window and doing some forms of fasting has benefits. Now, I have found clinically that men tend to do better than women with fasting. And so it just depends on the person. Okay. So I think when I have a patient that has hypothyroidism, or they're just really weak and brittle and fatigued, I don't have them do much fasting. Okay. But if I have somebody who needs to lose weight and really improve their health metabolically, that's their main issue, then I do like to do fasting. And even if it's just a 10 to 14 hour, like where you eat 10 hours and you fast 14. So maybe you just eat breakfast a little later, like 9 a.m., and then you eat again at noon, and you eat an early dinner at 5. Okay. Like, that works for a lot of people. And I would say that would be a good option for a lot of people. But fasting, the early in certain religious communities, the Jews and then the early Christians in the church, they picked one day a week, like a Wednesday or Friday, and they would fast basically breakfast and lunch. And then we know clinically this activates autophagy, and we have this part of our cells called our lysosomes, and they work with our mitochondria. They're kind of like our waste management recycling crew to take senescent cells, these zombie cells that are so toxic and cause cancer, bring them out of our body, eliminate them, and create new healthy cellular tissue and organs. So I would say that fasting and autophagy is very good. And one of the things that I love that you do is focus on breathing. This was a big focus of Chinese medicine. In fact, they had entire practices of medicine for this called Qigong and Tai
Yeah.
Chi. But just doing a 5-minute daily breathing practice, 5 to 10 minutes, is so transformative for your lung qi and lung health and detoxification. So that's another thing that I would say for people. It's so easy for them to do, and it costs nothing. So that would be another great thing.
What's funny is right after the detox challenge yesterday, I went downstairs with my head of production, my podcast team, and I kid you not, we sat on the grass, we did breath work, and then we literally fell back and just laid in the grass for a few minutes right outside my condo. So we did some grounding, we just did some breath work, and all of us acknowledged to each other, we're like, wow, forget how good it feels to just go outside. And we literally lay down in the grass. Now, I don't want to think what was in that grass because we're in Miami, but we did it. So guys, I want to do a quick audience check here. On a scale of 1 to 10, and I want you to be honest, how much do you think your current daily habits are supporting your detox pathways? 1 to 10. 10 being you have daily habits that you think you're detoxing on a regular basis. 1 is, oh my God, this thing opened my eyes and I really need to get busy on building a good detox protocol. All right. So I want to comment that in the chat. I really want to hear from you guys. And now I want to move into the live questions from our YouTube viewers. And I won't also forget that we're giving away a cold plunge today. So here's question number 1. Is psyllium a binder? I believe this works as a high fiber like Miralax, not a binder.
Let me say this. I think it depends on your definition of binder. Fiber is a binder, a type of a binder. It's not a binder in the sense of it's structurally going to pull heavy metals. However, fiber, along with bacteria, do help flush out certain toxins out of your system. So it's not technically a binder. However, it does support colon detoxification in a way. And I would say if you want to get a really good thing that is a type of a categorically could be considered maybe a binder and a form of fiber. I mean, pectin is one that I really like. Citrus pectin, apple pectin, totally adding that to a smoothie. So I think that would be a great thing to use.
Yeah. Do binders help remove post-chemo chemicals when you're in remission? What kind of binders would work for chemo from breast cancer treatments?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I would really like zeolites and chlorella. I mean, I think
totally
those two long-term would be the best.
Yeah. So Roger H says, I have 3 molds in my blood. How do I get rid of it? Well, you're in the right place, man. Follow the detox guide, Roger.
Yeah. So okay. Well, the fastest way is actually probably doing something called EBU or plasma. Anyways,
I talk about that plasma exchange. Yes.
Yeah. Doing EBU, which is a 10 pass, a really potent type of ozone blood filtration, or a plasma exchange. If you're very, very sick, and you've done things and you still have not been able to get out of your blood, those 2 things in particular are the most potent and powerful at cleansing mold out of your blood. Now, 24% of the population tends to, one of the things that Gary teaches, we know regularly, is the importance of methylation and how numerous people, 40% plus, have gene variants that don't allow you to methylate very well. And so taking a methylated B complex and NAD plus and a number of things can really help that. Well, very similar thing, 24% of the population has a gene variant where they don't detox mold properly. And so it continually recirculates in the body. So one of the things you can do is you can do binders, and that is helpful. I would say that for something that's going to help bind things in the blood, I would say cilantro would be good. I think milk thistle would be good. Olive leaf might be the best in terms of something that's going to help kill mold in the blood. Olive leaf long-term is the best.
Okay.
But getting any type of ozone via an IV is probably the best thing.
We talked about the different categories of ozone. I actually have a machine here in my house called a HoCat, which is transdermal ozone. It's a ozone gas that's misted through the skin.
Yeah.
So the next question is, would you suggest NBMI for a detox of heavy metals? I'm not sure what NBMI is.
I'm going to need to look that up as well. I need to, okay,
I'm rarely
NBMI.
stumped, but I don't know what NBMI is.
Okay, so here's what it says. It's a
It's
lipid-soluble
rare
heavy
that I
metal
get stumped.
chelator. Okay, okay. So
It's a
this is
chelator?
probably, so in the
Oh, it's a
past,
metal
people,
chelator.
yeah,
Okay.
so in the past, people would use something called EDTA chelation, and
Yes.
it's similar to that. Here's what I would say from what yeah, that's what it says. It's DMSA and EDTA. It's
Oh, okay. So unfamiliar.
um um it's interesting. I actually haven't heard of it.
I haven't heard of it
Gary,
either.
I almost never have this. I just cannot speak on this well enough because it's so new.
Me too. I'm
And
like rarely. Whoever submitted that question, I should give you the cold plunge for stumping both of us. 'Cause,
yeah,
if MBMI is a thing, Josh Axe and I don't know about it. The other two chelators I'm extraordinarily familiar with. You can get those in an oral form or an intravenous form. I've taken one called Detox, which is like an AM and
yeah.
PM a binder that's specific for heavy metals. Okay, so Nicole Lewis, what would you recommend for detoxing after a PET scan? I think all these, it's so interesting. I think all these people are getting back to these radioactive dyes.
It,
You know, like what happened with my wife.
yeah. And this is very similar to the one of the responses earlier, but I would recommend zeolites. I'd recommend chlorella. I would also say milk
Agreed.
thistle. I mean, milk thistle would be really high on that list for radiation.
Okay. So Catherine Kanan says, my mother suffers from digestion issues after colon cancer. She's now gluten-free and vegan to minimize inflammation, but still suffers from loose stools. What protocol could help calm her system?
Yeah. So now I want to say something about veganism is not ideal when you have loose stool. So what happens is, and some of this is going to be Chinese medicine language, but basically she has a weak digestive chi. It's weak digestion. You want to build and strengthen that up. So you actually want to, this sounds crazy for some people. You want to avoid salads. You want to
Mm.
avoid cold smoothies and cold water. You want to warm your body. You want to nourish it. Lots of soups, lots of stews, lots of bone broth, lots of cooked meat, lots of cooked vegetables. That's going to be ideal for helping heal that issue. But think, chicken, vegetable soup, beef stew, those sort of things is going to be much better to strengthen the digestive system. Probably the strongest herbs in ranking order. Number one is going to be astragalus, doing about 2,000 milligrams a day. And then I would drink a lot of ginger tea. That's also going to help kind of improve that digestive fire. But being a vegan or doing cold raw food will make that much worse.
I
And
would
then in terms of
completely agree with that. Yes.
and for detoxing after, along with those herbs, probiotics, magnesium would probably be the best for her.
Okay. So Jenny Williams says, Dr. Josh, we do breathwork, grounding, morning sun. We live on a farm, lots of natural food, fresh air, clean water. Should we still test for toxins just to see where we're at?
I mean, I would say this. I do those too. And, and I like to do tests regularly. I mean, and Gary has some of his favorites. I have some of my favorites as well.
Yeah, you can throw them in there. I mean,
do.
I'm not partial to any particular test.
Yeah, so there's a few I really like. I like a GI map, which is basically testing your stool. I like seeing
Yeah.
what, good or bad bacteria. I mean, listen, living on a farm, I mean, well, I own two farms. I own 4,000 acres of farms. Own a farm in Missouri. I own a farm in South Tennessee. And you come across parasites. There's all kinds of things on a farm. So I would say a GI map can be great to see, hey, are there types of bacteria we need to replenish in your gut? I like a methylation test like Gary talks about because, knowing genetically, if you're very susceptible, if you have two of those variants, you really want to focus on eating more liver and taking methylated Bs and upping your probiotic dosage, everything you can to support methylation. So I think that's a good one. I really like micronutrient tests or oat tests.
Yeah,
Being able to
micronutrient
see,
assay.
yeah, being able to look at, hey, are you depleted in folate or B12 or B9 or zinc or magnesium? And then, of course, I like vitamin D tests. So I like tests looking for micronutrients like organic acids or micronutrient tests. I mean, those would be some of my favorites to look at. So I do tests, every couple years to just kind of see where I'm at and what's going on. So I do think there's benefits there.
I agree. So guys, it's
Yeah.
currently 12:55. We're running a little bit behind. I'm so sorry about that, but we're going to take one last question. And I promise if you're going into the VIP, I'm going to extend my VIP session today so I get to everybody's question, as many as I can. It's really clear that detox happens in two stages, stage 1 and stage 2, and that the pathways need to be open before toxins are dumped. So what's not clear is, are the supplements discussed meant to help clear the pathways, or do you only start taking the supplements after the pathways have been cleared? So I wanted to touch base on that and just say that, we start these supplements that like the magnesiums at night so that we can actually start to move our bowels. We start hydration and mineralization in the morning so that you can hydrate and mineralize the body. You know that I'm a big believer in the amino acids. I take the perfect aminos. I'm a huge believer in hydrogen-rich water, especially for our microvascular system. So those are all things that we can start in stage 1. And when we are sleeping, pooping, and urinating regularly, that's when we move to stage 2, when we start adding binders, and we might use chelating agents. We might go on to modalities like EBO2 or ozone or therapeutic plasma exchange. But the first thing that we want to do is make sure that we've covered the basics: sleep, sunlight, breath work, grounding, hydration, mineralization, whole food diet, regular bowel movements, just the basics of what our natural detoxification pathways are going to use to eliminate this waste anyway. Some of the sickest clients I have ever had were heavily constipated clients that decided to do liver or colon detoxes and made themselves really, really sick. And so I don't want you to begin that process, which is, again, why I wrote that manual, so you could follow it in stages. Do we have a winner? So Josh, this has been amazing, man. We've known each other for a very, very long time. We've shared the stage a number of times. I've had you on the podcast. Check out the podcast that I did with Dr. Josh Axe. I've also been on his podcast. He's one of the great practitioners of our time, a real early mover. He's actually doesn't know this, but he and Dr. Hyman were one of the inspirations for me to actually leave my previous career and get into the career that I'm in now. So you've given some people hope that detox doesn't have to be complicated or overwhelming. You've shown us some really powerful tools that are often just simple ones like real food and natural binders and how to support our body's own intelligence. What I love about Dr. Axe is he studies a lot of the ancient therapies. If something has been around for hundreds or thousands of years, it's probably because it works. Maybe there's not a randomized, double-blind, peer-reviewed, placebo-controlled clinical trial, but it's been used for thousands of years, and I have a lot of faith in those kinds of modalities. I love his approach to making detox accessible. So where can people, find more about your work? Where do they find you online, some of your books?
Yeah. So I'd say a couple places. One, my podcast. You did, of course, an exceptional podcast with me, so that was great. But I'd say, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and I talk a lot about everything from reversing hypothyroidism, boosting your testosterone, healing numerous conditions. You could just search Dr. Axe hypothyroid or something like that on YouTube, and you'll find a lot of content I've done. And I have a virtual practice. I see patients through my practitioners. That's called the Health Institute. But yeah, I would say those places, in social media, Instagram. But Gary, just want to say it was such an honor to come on. I love what you're teaching. You're changing a lot of lives, and I love that you're doing it with this sort of lifestyle medicine, food is medicine, really practical approach, helping people heal. So thanks so much for having me. It was an honor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Axe. Amazing.
God bless. Thanks.
3 for 3, guys. 3 days, 3 amazing practitioners. I hope that you got a lot out of Josh Axe. Dr. Josh Axe. So before we head over to the VIP session, I want to take a minute to announce the winner of the Cold Life Cold Plunge. So congratulations to Maggie Walrab, Wahlrab. Hope I'm saying that right, Walrab. So Maggie, can we possibly bring her? There's no way to bring her up. I want to see her face. Okay, well, Maggie, you just won a Cold Life Cold Plunge. She said it helps significantly with my lower back pain and my inflammation, but most of all, helping with liver and kidney health because I'm in the process of donating a kidney to my uncle. Wow. I'm so happy that we could be a small part of healing you from that donation. What a selfless thing to do for someone that you love. That's amazing. My team's going to be reaching out to you directly to arrange the delivery of your unit. So for everyone else, don't worry. We have more incredible giveaways coming in our VIP community. Guys, you can upgrade to VIP. Cancel at any time. Today's the day to join. We'll have another session tomorrow to directly answer your questions. So if this 3 days really resonated with you, if you see yourself in what we discussed, please take action. Start with the framework we covered today. Use the guide that I provided for free. Get your drainage pathways open. Consider the Vibrant Wellness Test, or the, what was the one that Dr. Asks referred to, the GI map. Consider those tests we did on day 2 with Dr. Petros. Find a functional medicine practitioner who understands environmental toxins. So if you're talking to one, specifically ask about environmental toxins. Just like when you're talking to your dentist, ask if they're familiar with biologic dentistry. Your body has been trying to tell you something for months, maybe even years. So I hope these days gave you the language to finally understand what it's saying. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you let it just become another piece of information that you collected, or will you act upon it? I wrote that manual so you could act. So if days 1 and day 2 and day 3 opened your eyes, and we just gave you this roadmap, you now understand that detox is not about doing everything all at once. It's not a crash detox. It's about following the biological sequence your body already uses. Mobilize, bind, eliminate, and then repair. So Dr. Josh Axe just showed you the most powerful detox tools are not found in a bottle or a prescription or a synthetic or a pharmaceutical. They're found in nature, real food, real binders, simple daily habits that work with your biology and are not expensive. 90% of what you've learned in the last 3 days, you have in your kitchen cabinets or outside on your lawn. So here's what I want you to understand. Knowing the framework is just the beginning. Having the step-by-step timing, the exact dosages, the meal plans, and the troubleshooting guide, that's where real transformation can happen. So comment yes if these 3 days have convinced you that you can take control of your health when you have the right information. The choice is yours. You can take what you learned today and implement it alone, and some of you will definitely succeed. Most of you will start strong and gradually drift back into your old patterns, or you can join my community with thousands of people that are on the same journey. I'm going to continue to give you expert guidance. I'm going to hold you accountable, and I'm going to support you to ensure that your results are the ones that you're seeking. So for those of you joining the VIP community, welcome to the next phase of your health transformation. For those of you going it alone, I believe in you. See you on the other side of this transformation. Thank you for trusting me these last 3 days and the practitioners for the last 3 days to give you some health guidance. I hope that you got value out of this. Thank each and every one of you for taking the time to sit here with me these last 3 days and put your health first. Okay, so we're going to transition over to the VIP portion. So if you want to upgrade and join us, my team is dropping the links. If not, I hope to see you very soon. I thank you for your time. VIPs, we're going to take a 10-minute break. I'm going to use the restroom and then grab some water, and I'll see you back here in 10 minutes. All right, VIPs, welcome back. Day 3 is on the books, and what a journey it's been. You know, Dr. Josh Axe just blew a lot of minds with those natural detox protocols, didn't he? This is exactly why I love working with practitioners who understand that the body already knows how to heal. We just need to support it properly. So now we're going to go deeper. In the free session, we talked about the 4-stage framework, and here I'm going to give you the exact implementation guide, the ones that I can't put out onto YouTube. I'm going to give you timing, dosages, meal plans, and troubleshooting so you can start getting results immediately. Friday, the new 2 detoxes come out, one for mold and the other one for heavy metals. But before we dive in today, I want to take a minute to talk about the VIP gift boxes. I'm giving away the last 3 today. We've given 6 away so far. I'll give another 3 away today. They include the Body Health Cleanse, the metal and chemical free cleanse. That was actually one of the first questions in the VIP group, which I'll answer. It has the Rho glutathione, which is the liposomal glutathione, the master antioxidant in the human body. It's got Baja sea salt grinders for mineralization, both flavors of the H2 tab. You know what a huge fan I am of H2 tabs. And it has premium magnesium from Bioptimizer. So each of those boxes is worth over $500, and it's designed to help you detox. So, and as a bonus, I'm going to give away a higher dose sauna blanket today, and a Vibrant wellness test. So 3 of you are going to win VIP gift boxes. 1 of you is going to win a higher dose sauna blanket. So if you don't have a sauna in your home, stick around and see if you win the sauna blanket and a Vibrant wellness test, because I know, look, the VIP, I respect the fact that you're spending $97 a month. I don't take that lightly. I know that that is a big spend for many of you. So as often as possible, I get my vendors to contribute to my VIP group. I'm also going to start next month, for those of you that are VIP members and want to be a part of some of our testing groups. I have this idea of having you guys be part of my guinea pig group for products and services, supplements that I have approved, that I've independently tested, used in my clinic setting. These are things like skincare and other supplements. They might be modalities. I want to actually send these to you for free, and all I'm asking you to do is just give me honest feedback on it, what your experience is with it. By the time I send it to you, I will have already made sure that it is chemical free. It's a part of a chemical free lifestyle. But with all of these different companies and brands trying to find their way onto the ultimate human platform, I want the way to my platform to be through my VIP group. So these will be things that I'm sieving and considering, and I'll send them to you guys. We'll get some test results back from you, and you let me know just honest feedback. That's all I ask from you. So drop your story in the chat. Let us know how you could benefit from one of these 3 giveaways, either a detox box, one of our VIP gift boxes, why you should get a sauna blanket, or the higher dose sauna blanket, or why you should get the total tox burden test at no cost. Let me know how it's going to help you on the health journey, and my team will pick 5 of the winners and 5 of the stories, and we'll take a minute to make it meaningful. All right, so let me break down the exact 4-stage protocol with precise implementation today. Stage 1 is we mobilize. Mobilization is going to happen in the mornings. Stage 2 is when we're going to do the binding. Binding also happens in the morning. It just happens after our meals, usually in an hour to 2 hours after we eat a meal and have taken our supplements. Remember, we don't want binders to actually bind the supplements or the nutrients from our food and carry those out of the body. We want some space in the digestive tract between the meals that we've eaten, the supplements that we've taken, and the binders that are going to follow along behind that and actually mop up some of these toxins. Stage 3 is the elimination. This happens throughout the day. Hopefully you are having a healthy bowel movement first thing in the morning within 45 minutes of waking. The rest of it is going to be through urination and sweat and breath work during the day. And then stage 4 is repair. This happens in the evening, which is why I really suggest you can also take binders in the evening. But if you're taking your magnesiums and things like that for sleep and for your gut, we'll leave the binders in the morning. Guys, this is not a theory. This is an exact sequence that I followed every day, and it's what I used, and I've used it in thousands of clients to get real results. I always like showing you my results because it's a very just transparent very authentic view at how I handle the challenges when they come into my life and get them permanently into my rearview mirror. And I believe in just sharing those openly and in a transparent way with you guys. So back to the scale of 1 to 10, how valuable has this 3-day challenge been for your health journey? Put a number in the chat. Be honest. I really want to know that I'm hitting the mark. I have decided that I am pouring myself into this VIP group. So I want to know how much value and how much benefit you're getting out of this. So I'm going to walk through, I'm going to go to the whiteboard and walk a little bit through the science of the protocol for today. And then I'm going to get to your VIP questions, and then we're going to open it up to the live chat. So we talked, oh wow, we're back to my old mycotoxins. So we already talked about, we talked about a lot over the last few days. So I just want to kind of regroup and talk about the different pathways that we looked at to get rid of waste: lungs, liver, kidney, urine, stool, and sweat. And then finally, let's just add breath to the top here. So let's start with the zero cost actionable items that we can do to really just help us detox. Breath work. Remember, we did some of this yesterday. We'll do a little bit more of it today. Start with 3 rounds of 5 deep breaths. Okay? 3 rounds of 5 deep breaths. I want to actually go back over this breath work really, really fast because remember, these are obnoxiously deep breaths. Moving our rib cage, moving our intercostals, moving our diaphragm, drawing oxygen down into the lobes of our lungs, not just the apex of our lungs, actually starting to circulate our lymphatic system, getting oxygen into the body. Lungs is one of the ways that we expire. And when we expire moisture, and in that moisture are a lot of the toxins. In fact, there are a lot of really good biological testing mechanisms now that only test the breath. Breathalyzers, for example, can measure the blood alcohol content of your blood. Why is that? Because the alcohols are vaporized and excreted from your body. Very often, mold and mycotoxin excretions and parasitic excretions can actually be picked up in the breath. One of the ways they actually measured toxicity in COVID patients was through respiratory measurements. So our lungs and our breath are great ways to get toxins out of the body. And by going out in the morning, getting some natural sunlight, which all of the practitioners have agreed with, touching the surface of the earth, reconnecting with Mother Nature, doing some breath work. Just consider maybe your next vacation isn't to Las Vegas. It's not to go to a show. It's not to actually go do something active, even a ski trip or a trip to a nightclub. It's actually to go back and reconnect with Mother Nature and do some breath work, do some grounding, and get back to the simple things in life. Liver, we talked about phase 1 and phase 2 detox. I really should have been a doctor because my writing is so bad. We talked about phase 1 and phase 2 detox. Phase 1 is where we actually implemented some of the supplements that we talked about: NAC, glutathione, methylated B vitamins, things like hydrogen water using hydrogen tabs, Baja Gold sea salt for mineralization. I also said if you have other favorite supplement manufacturers, feel free to use them. Just make sure they are methylated. Look for things like cyanocobalamin, get rid of those. Look for things like folic acid and get rid of those. So I'm not partial to these brands. I just like to tell you the ones that I use. Phase 1 is where we actually use supplementation and we actually get our bowels moving. Phase 2 is where we have the liver discharge toxins into the gallbladder and have the gallbladder excrete them in the form of bile into the colon for elimination. We also talked about the kidney. The number one thing for the kidney is hydration and mineralization. You hear me talk about this all the time. The kidney in an area called the nephron. These are really, really small, tiny capillaries, venules and capillaries They respond very, very well to hydrogen water because remember, these are not areas of the body that are circulated by the pressure of the heart. These are areas of the body that are circulated by vasomotor. 70% of our circulation is not done by our heart. It is done by an activity called vasomotor, a muscular contraction that moves blood both into and out of the tissues. So hydration and mineralization, as well as hydrogen water, are excellent ways to improve your kidney health and improve your urine excretions. So we did talk about urine. We also talked about testing the urine with something called a Vibrant Wellness Test. So the Vibrant Total Detox is what we've been talking about on this program. If you have another detox test, feel free to use that. If you have a practitioner that has a preferred detox test, feel free to use that. Vibrant is the one that I use, and I do pre and post testing to prove that what we're doing is working. Stool is a big one. Remember, we want to have a bowel movement within 45 minutes of waking in the morning. If you're not, this is where we talked about the magnesium supplements at night, specifically magnesium citrate. Threonate is good for sleep. The citrate and glycinate are good for getting the gut moving. I use something called Bioptimizers, which is a magnesium breakthrough product. If you have another magnesium you prefer to use, just make sure it is the citrate or glycinate version for the gut or the threonate version to help quiet the mind. And then, of course, sweat. Sweat is one of the best ways. If you're not exercising to the point where you're getting yourself worked up into a sweat, there are sauna blankets. Most gyms now actually incorporate dry sauna. We have centuries of data on dry sauna, guys, so don't worry about whether or not it's infrared or dry. Both work really, really well to actually excrete toxins from the body. The one trick that you want to remember is you want to take a towel into the sauna with you and continually wipe the sweat off your body. Metals will have a tendency to rise and come out of the skin, and if you don't wipe them off, they'll actually be resorbed. So don't be afraid to towel off while you're actually in the sauna. Sweat again, towel off, sweat again, and keep removing those, keep getting those toxins out away from the body. Okay, so I'm gonna head back to our other camera and get to some of your questions. I actually poured myself a dandelion tea while I was on the break. So I'm going to get to the pre-submitted questions, and then we'll open the floor to the direct live Q&A. So Denise Santora said, can Body Health's metal and chemical cleanse help as a daily detox supplement, or Shade's liver sauce, assuming both help with liver detox? I'm not familiar with Dr. Shade's liver sauce, so it may very well be an excellent supplement. Look for things like milk thistle in those types of supplements if they're referring to the liver. I am a big fan of Body Health's metal and chemical cleanse. I take that in the mornings. It's a dropper. It tastes kind of like a bitter tea or even a sweet tea. It's excellent. That was developed by Dr. Minkoff when his wife got heavy metal toxicity and chemical poisoning. So he's used it in a clinic setting with thousands of patients. I'm a huge fan of that product. Charles Holder said, how do I heal the root cause of peripheral neuropathy? This is a really good one, guys. So let's start with the fact that if I wanted to give anybody on this Zoom peripheral neuropathy right now, all I would do is put a tourniquet on one of your limbs. So if I put a tourniquet on your forearm, in about 20 minutes, you would have peripheral neuropathy in that limb. And what would happen? You would have tingling, numbness, maybe burning, maybe itching. After about an hour, I could literally pinch the back of your hand as hard as I could, and you wouldn't feel a thing. Now, we would call that peripheral neuropathy, but what if I wanted to end the peripheral neuropathy? I would just take the tourniquet off, and in about 15 or 20 minutes, the sensation would return to normal. Now, if I barely pinch the back of your hand, you would feel it. Very often, peripheral neuropathy is not an issue with the nerves, is an issue with circulation. Okay, so now that we know we're targeting circulation, let's talk about what kinds of things can help improve circulation. Number one, movement, by far the best thing to improve circulation. Whenever I see diabetics with those 2-inch thick shoes and they have peripheral neuropathy in their feet, the very first thing I tell them is take those shoes off, go to Home Depot, buy a $10 welcome mat, the cheapest, prickliest plastic welcome mat that you can find, put it under your desk, take your socks off, and put your feet onto that prickly mat. Tell your brain there is tissue there. Tell your brain to send blood and nutrients to that tissue. The last thing you want to do is start casting a limb that actually has low sensation to begin with. The brain only knows that you have a big toe because there is a nerve at the end of your toe telling your brain that there's tissue there. If that nerve begins to recede or you begin to dull that sensation, it will stop sending nutrients to that area of the body. So that's one thing. The second thing is all things circulation, contrast therapy, hot into cold therapy. It does not have to be boiling hot to freezing cold. I'm talking about cool to very warm above tepid temperatures, back and forth, causing a vasodilation, vasoconstriction, vasodilation, vasoconstriction. There is a great resveratrol product called Vinia, V-I-N-I-A, Vinia resveratrol. I have no affiliation with them, but it is a great way to restore circulation. If you've had peripheral neuropathy for a long time, I want you to look into a product called Calyx, C-A-L-Y-X. This is a product that helps to repair the endothelium, the inside lining of the blood vessel, and helps restore healthy blood vessel growth and circulation. The other thing is hydrogen water is excellent for peripheral neuropathies and for circulation. Again, back to the 70% of our circulation that's not done by the heart, getting into the microvasculature, which very few compounds can do. One of the reasons why I don't recommend turmeric and curcumin as a way to solve peripheral neuropathy, I recommend liquid turmeric and curcumin, micellized or nanoparticle. Those are the two key words you want to look for. You want these compounds to be small so they can proliferate into tissues that are already inflamed. So Avinia resveratrol, prickly welcome mat, contrast therapy, hydration with minerals, hydrogen water is excellent. In the modality range, if you have the option to have access to these modalities, you may not want to make this big of an investment yourself. Hydrogen nano bathing, actually bathing in hydrogen water. H2 Tabs has a bath bomb that you can throw in a bucket of water, you can throw in a bathtub. Bathing in hydrogen gas and having it go transdermal is a great way to help with peripheral circulation, which will help with peripheral neuropathy. The other thing is red light therapy. Red light therapy is excellent for peripheral neuropathies. Lots of gyms, lots of clinics, lots of places around the country allow you to go in and use full body red light therapy on a membership basis, because I realize that those beds can be very expensive, but you actually want a bed that plugs into a 220 outlet, not a bed that plugs into a 110 outlet. That will tell you that it has the power to drive that light deep into the tissue. So Connie Lower, L-O-E-H-R, Connie Lower says, I have a grandson who's 3.5 and has eczema ever since he was a baby. It's better now, but it's on his legs and arms. Where would you start with him? So 3 things I would be doing for this child. 1, I would make sure that they have an infant probiotic. Very often, children that are born through C-section and not vaginally miss the inoculation through the vaginal canal of some very critical bacteria that populate the gut and actually prevent things like asthma. So if he was born by C-section, very often C-section birth babies do not have the right probiotic flora, and formulas actually make this worse. So I would avoid seed oils. I would avoid folic acid in his diet, anything that is fortified or enriched. I would certainly be supplementing this child with an infant probiotic, an infant liquid probiotic, and I would also think about adding an infant colostrum to help heal and seal the gut naturally. Other things you can add to his diet are fermented vegetables. You can tease those into other vegetables or into meats or into soups, so the baby will get them down. You can also blend those in a blender. These have very high amounts of soluble and insoluble fiber. The insoluble fiber will become free fatty acids, which is also excellent for eczema. The other thing I will say is hydrogen bathing is great and very safe for infants. You can use the hydrogen bath bombs, put the baby into warm water with hydrogen gas, and you'll see almost an immediate improvement in the eczematic condition. Okay, so Dom says, is it possible to get rid of mold infections in the sinuses, gut, and lungs without medication? Yes. If not, what medications are required? I prefer that you not go the chemical, synthetic, pharmaceutical route just yet. Follow the guide that we've put together over the last over the last 3 days. Friday, you are getting a mold detox guide. Is that the 8-week guide? Yeah, you're getting an 8-week mold detox guide. It's super detailed, way more detailed than what I gave out in the free session because of some of the information I'm not allowed to put on YouTube. But I get specifically into supplements, timing, into binders, sauna sessions, breath work. I go deep down the rabbit hole of those, and I even go into a mold-free diet and places that you are very likely getting inoculated with the mold. So what is it, Wednesday? So 2 days from now, you should have that guide available to you in the VIP. Mackenzie Crawford. Mackenzie asks a lot of questions. She gets through all the time. Good job. Didn't Mackenzie win one of our VIP packages? Dude, Mackenzie, you're killing it. So you're getting your $97 worth. I'm upping your membership. During day, that's a joke. During day 2, Gary mentioned rebuilding neurological pathways. Can you go into more detail on that? Yes. So when I was talking about neurological pathways, I'm talking about communication pathways, mainly in the brain, right? It's a big fallacy that people that have, in the majority of cases, people that have dementia, that have Alzheimer's, that have early onset cognitive decline, are losing their memory. These people are not losing their memory. They are losing access to their memory. And access can be restored. I'm going to say that again because it's a really critical point. People that have Alzheimer's, early onset dementia, cognitive decline, brain fog, short-term recall and focus issues are not losing their memory. They are losing access to their memory. So prefrontal cortex connecting with hippocampus, memory connecting with consciousness, these are our neuronal pathways. So what are the ways that we can improve those? Number 1 is to fix your methylation pathways. Neurotransmitters are made in the gut. They travel up something called the vagus nerve, which if I could, move everything out of this view but the vagus nerve, you'd see that it looks like 2 big tree trunks that drop down into your chest and then kind of branch like branches under the soil throughout your entire body. And these neurotransmitters get into the vagus nerve, they go up to the brain and they populate mood, emotion, they actually populate the pathways that actually create memory, focus, concentration. Cold plunging is an excellent way to do this. Avoiding grains, especially grains that are soaked and sprayed with glyphosate, which would be your corn, wheat, and soy, especially the GMO grains that are heavily laden with glyphosate. Those help improve those neuronal pathways. Things like hydrogen-rich water, breath work, grounding, sunlight, and red light therapy are super good for neuronal pathways, as are low inflammatory compounds like turmeric and curcumin. So Karen Morley says, my 92-year-old mother has osteoporosis of a congenital dislocated hip. She's in pain and recently moved to assisted care living after my father passed. So osteoporosis and osteopenia. Let me touch on those for a second. If you went to assisted care living facilities all over the country, you would find tons of elderly men and women that are suffering from osteopenia, the precursor to osteoporosis, brittle bone disease. These people have been on calcium supplements for decades. It's not calcium. Remember, I talk about this a lot in the VIP. Our bones are not calcium. Our bones are calcium combined with phosphorus to form something called hydroxyapatite. Our bones, like our teeth, are hydroxyapatite. So how do we form hydroxyapatite? You need 12 minerals. If you are deficient in any one of the 12 minerals, calcium and phosphorus will not bind. If they don't bind, they don't form hydroxyapatite. And in the absence of this hydroxyapatite binding, you don't have strong, healthy bones. 2 things are needed for bone to form: calcium and phosphorus, 12 minerals, and a load. So actually standing, weight-bearing exercise, walking, standing, sitting, these are good things for elderly people that have brittle bone issues. I would highly encourage her to begin taking Baja Gold mineral salt, as it contains the molybdenum, the manganese, the silicas, the zincs, the copper, all of the trace minerals, magnesium, zinc, that you need in order to form healthy, strong bone. In the elderly, we used to have something we called the triad of death in the mortality space. Sounds morbid, kind of, because it is. But we looked at the distance from hip fractures to to mortality, and people would think that their grandmothers or grandfathers fell and broke their hip, but in the majority of the cases, what happens is their hip breaks and then they fall. So the fall doesn't cause the fracture. The fracture causes the fall. And it's a sign that's very close to mortality, because when the femoral neck can no longer support the weight of the skeleton in a static position, it shows you how far progressed the degeneration of the skeletal system is. Super important to get those people on minerals. Aaron Page, I'm quite thin and have had digestive issues for 35 years. I can't tolerate fats, oils, or skin. System feels hypersensitive and causes referred pain in my upper back. Referred pain in your upper back may be coming from your kidneys. I would have your kidneys checked. And you said you're quite thin and you've had digestive issues for 35 years. This is normally two things. One, this is an issue with intestinal motility. I would really recommend that you get that genetic test that I formulated at 10x Health. You can go to 10xhealthsystem.com/Gary, and you can actually get that test there. And then begin to supplement for the deficiencies in your methylation pathway. This very well, if you've had it for 35 years, that is not a food sensitivity or a food allergy. That is a motility issue. So you have probably intermittent gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, irritability, and cramping. And as you shift from thing to thing, it does not correlate to your diet. If that sounds like you, it could very well be your methylation deficiencies. Once you begin to supplement them, this could be your 35-year get-out-of-jail-free card, because the motility in your intestines may very well return to normal. And once that does, then we can start to repopulate the gut with really good, healthy probiotics, something like a BioComplete 3 by Dr. Gundry. Shelley Fournier says, my 11-year-old son, Enzo, was diagnosed with 5 vestibular disorders as a toddler, the first child with all 5 at Boston Children's Hospital. Since you didn't form this as a question, I assume that you are asking me if there's anything that I can do. I am not familiar with all 5 vestibular orders, so I'm just going to disclose that up front. However, an 11-year-old still has about 15 years until the full neuroplasticity of the brain is formed, till about age 24. So you're catching this at a great time. One of the things I do know is very helpful for neuropathic conditions in the brain, vestibular inflammation in the brain, although I don't know if it's related directly to your case, is transcranial red light. Neuronic makes one of these helmets. What is the other one that I used to wear? Weber. Weber and Neuronic make transcranial red light therapy helmets that have high-powered lasers that actually bathe the brain in red light. Just really, really good for improving mitochondrial density and the neuroplasticity of the brain. Again, since you didn't phrase it in the form of a question, I'm not sure if that answered your question. So Genevieve Chartrand says, is geographic tongue caused by any of the toxins we're targeting in this detox challenge? This is the second time I've been stumped today. I rarely get stumped. One of you actually stumped Dr. Axe and I both. So Genevieve, I do not know what geographic tongue is. So I'm going to look. Oh, okay, my team looked it up. Geographic tongue is also known as benign migratory ascites. It's a harmless inflammatory condition of the tongue that causes irregular map-like patches, red and surrounded by white or grayish matter. I'm going to go down the rabbit hole on this and get back to you. I don't like to comment on things that I don't have a core competency on or haven't seen in my clinic system, because I don't have anything to gauge what works and what doesn't. So I'm going to move your name over to an area to follow up on. Sean Salonen says, I have mild fatty liver. Can I follow all the protocols, or do some need to be adjusted? Could this detox actually improve my fatty liver? The answer is yes. You heard Dr. Axe talk about that with the milk thistles. Remember, fatty liver there's a multiplicity of causes. There's something called non-alcoholic fatty liver. We used to only find fatty liver in the majority of cases were in chronic alcoholics. We now see a parabolic rise because of toxicity trapped in the liver. causing the liver tissue to morph into fatty tissue. And so fatty liver is a lot more common, what we call non-alcoholic fatty liver, than it was even 10 years ago. But yes, fixing phase 1 to phase 2 detox in the liver can be very, very helpful in addressing all kinds of liver pathologies: elevated GGT, AST, ALT, high levels of alkaline phosphatase, which are liver poisons. But by lowering the enzymatic activity in the liver, reducing the inflammation and the irritation in the liver, I have personally seen fatty livers go into complete remission. The liver is an incredible organ. I mean, you can actually bludgeon the liver. It is incredible how much suffering this organ can take and still come back and be a full, healthy organ. I have seen with my own eyes in some of these stem cell retreats, livers that are the size of a basketball normally shrink to the size of a fist and completely regenerate. So the answer is yes, there is a chance to heal from fatty liver. Lori K said, I'm around toxic exposures all day: construction, welding, mold, etc. What is the best detox protocol for someone constantly exposed? Also, what's your opinion on diatomaceous earth? So diatomaceous earth is just a very broad binder. It's more of like a sponge. I would really consider getting on a binder, something like a citrus pectin that you can take every day. I would certainly be hydrating, mineralizing, taking H2 tabs, taking a methylated multivitamin, taking something like Perfect Aminos in a large glass of water throughout the day. I would stop all fruit juices, sodas, and carbonated beverages, and I would be switching to waters, teas, and water that has hydrogen gas in it and is mineralized the way that we talked earlier, drinking that throughout the day. Also, metal and chemical free cleanse by Dr. Minkoff, the Body Health, is something I would be taking every single day if you're constantly in an environment that's exposed. And again, all of these detox protocols, you'll see in my mold and heavy metal detox that you're going to get on Friday, all of these detox protocols like regular sauna, movement, breath work, sunlight, hydration, all of these things are meant to be just incorporated into your life, right? Because so many people are looking at what I'm trying to teach you as a detox protocol. It's really not. It's a detox lifestyle. If we hydrated and mineralized every day, if we added breath work every day, if we actually sweat a few times a week, if we fixed our bowels, if we were urinating more frequently, if we were hydrating with mineral salts, these are all things I want to become habits of yours. I want you to be a habitual detoxer, not like the occasional one that allows the poisons to stack up and then goes on a massive 3-day retreat and does a juice cleanse or does some kind of massive liver detox. Very often these make you really, really sick. Okay, so I got a couple more questions. Cliff Hobbs says, what is the best way to take creatine, morning or night? Daily cycle it, like 5 days on, 2 off. No, creatine does not need to be cycled. It also does not need to be given in a loading dose of 25 grams, which I see all over the internet, and then followed by 5 grams. 5 grams of creatine daily is great. Women, up to 20 grams of creatine a day if you are postmenopausal. If you look at the research coming out on creatine, it is not just for bodybuilders anymore, guys. Women especially are cautious of creatine because they see it as a bodybuilding supplement. It's not. It is excellent for brain health, for hormonal regulation. If you are premenopausal, peri, or postmenopausal, in my opinion, if you are 40 years old and older and you're a female, you need to be taking a minimum of 5 grams of creatine a day, up to 20 grams of creatine. Creatine comes in 2 forms. One is called monohydrate. The other one is called hydrochloride, HCl. So you'll see the creatine in both forms. You'll see creatine monohydrate and creatine HCl. People that bloat on one rarely, if ever, bloat on the other. So if you're one of those people that has taken a creatine supplement and you felt a little bloated, a little water retentive, switch your form from the monohydrate to the HCl or switch from the HCl to the monohydrate. It's hard to say without looking at your methylation which one is better for you, but you'll know right away because you'll bloat on one and you will not bloat on the other. So Dominique Keller says, how do you safely detox kids' exposure to mold? My kids have symptoms like rashes, ear pressure, constipation, fatigue. I also have breast cancer and similar symptoms. How do we support detox for all of us? Okay, so Dominique, number one thing, it sounds to me like this is connected to your environment. If your family is having similar symptoms, and more than one child, or you and your spouse, or just you and your children are having these, that sounds like an environmental inoculation to me. I would definitely do a visual inspection of your home, and then I would have your home tested for mold by a really good mold remediation company. Nothing is going to matter for you or for your children until you get the toxic environment cleaned up and you stop inoculating yourself. Once you're done with that, we can start to do things like talk about how do we make sure that it never comes back. Ozone, misters that you can use when you're out of the house, carbon and HEPA filtration that you can put in your HVAC system, and then obviously remediating the mold if you have the mold. Deborah Vader says, I'm 57, postmenopausal, and hypothyroid. Pretty common. My thyroid levels T3, T4, TSH fluctuate a lot. I'm on compounded T4, and tests showed I'm low in asparagine, copper, and B1. Could those deficiencies affect my thyroid? Will your detox help? And what else do you recommend? That was like 6 questions in one. Great job, Deborah. You really loaded the boat there. So let me take these one at a time. So if your thyroid levels are all over the place, that is because you're only using one form of thyroid hormone and your body is actually trying to regulate. Remember, if you only take T4, you're going to have plenty of T4 and the T3 is going to be low. Your pituitary is going to see the low T3 and it's going to try to raise the T3. The way that it raises T3 is it turns up the volume knob. The volume knob is something called TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. So the pituitary is going to start cranking up the volume. It's going to release a lot of thyroid stimulating hormone to try to raise the T3. The problem is you're taking T4. So if you're only taking T4 and you're not taking a natural dissected thyroid, you're not, which is called an NDT, you're not taking a armor thyroid, which is both of the thyroid hormones being replaced, and you're not taking selenium and fixing the deficiency in copper and B1, yes, very well, those could be a part of the dysregulation. I've used a supplement by Thorne called Thyrosin for people that have fluctuating hormonal levels. I would also go back to your doctor, and I would talk to your doctor about switching you to an NDT, a natural dissected thyroid, like an armor or other form, because single hormone supplementation rarely works, especially in females. Okay. I think that's it, right? Mike Welland, sorry. Mike Weiland says, first off, thank you, Gary. You're welcome. I've lost 60 pounds of following your protocols and feel better than I have in 20 years. Amazing. Thank you for saying that, Mike. Grateful for your work. Here are my questions. I'm going to jump the gun and pick Mike as one of our winners for the VIP box. So Mike, stick around. Mike Weiland, you just won a $500 gift box for this detox challenge. My wife has CRPS. That's a tough one, chronic regional pain syndrome, and did stem cells a few years ago. She's doing okay. Any other protocols you would suggest for her? Yes. I don't purport to have a lot of core competency in complex regional pain syndrome. There is a clinic in the Midwest which has had tremendous efficiency in treating complex regional pain syndrome. I am going to offline, since I'm already going to get your contact to send you the gift box, I am offline going to give you that information for your wife. However, here are the basics. Complex regional pain syndrome, if you're not familiar with what this is, guys, sadly, its nickname is the suicide disorder. I mean, it is a very, it can be crippling. It is pain in various regions of the body with nothing stimulating the pain source. Very often, people are told it's all in their head or they have a psychiatric disorder, but now we know it is a real syndrome where people experience pain without the actual stimulus of of pain. And stem cells are excellent for these, especially mesenchymal stem cells, MSCs. I would talk to your doctor about mesenchymal stem cells intravenously. These are now legal in the state of Florida. I would also talk to your doctor about exosomes, EXOSOMES, as a way to calm the inflammatory state of the distal tips of these nerves, to help repair the myelin sheath, and using something that is the size of a virus, like an exosome, to help enter those neuronal pathways and the myelin sheath to potentially give her some relief. So I'll make sure that I also refer you to this clinic. Are sublingual peptides as effective as injectables? I'd rather avoid needles. Yes, sublingual peptides can be just as effective as injectable peptides. The floor of our mouth has some of the thinnest skin in the body. It's also some of the most vascular in our body. So if you actually lift your tongue up and you look in the mirror, you can actually see the arteries and veins right through the skin. It's that thin. So these are called sublingual, and they usually come in something called an RDT, rapid dissolve tablet. This is the way that I take growth hormone peptides. I take sermorelin and ipamorelin, or CJC 1295 and ipamorelin, and I take it in the sublingual version. Next month, I will have a certified line of peptides coming out from a compound pharmacy, and they're also going to compound in a patch and also a sublingual. So I'll let you guys know when that's out. All right, so now we're moving to Q&A time. This is actually my favorite time. No question too big, too small, or too weird. I always have to start by saying that I am not a medical professional. I am not licensed to practice medicine. So this is for informational purposes only. As always, I really encourage you to work with a qualified healthcare practitioner for any medical decision. So please don't take what I'm saying today as medical advice. I'm just trying to guide you with as much information as I can. If you want to ask a question live, you can raise your hand using the Zoom reactions at the bottom of your screen, or you can drop questions into the chat and my team will gather those questions and bring them to me. All right, here we go for the live Q&A. Bingo. Can you tell me his name? Hey, Aaron.
Hey there.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good today, actually. I've followed you on podcasts and different things. It's great to actually be able to talk with you right now. That's so
Great
cool.
to talk to you too, man.
Appreciate it. I was the one that was asking about the digestive issues. I've fought this after military training. I actually had a vaccine injury. I had blood poisoning from a smallpox vaccine. You know, when they
Oh,
go in,
wow.
you get all the bolt of vaccines. And then so the went to sick call. The doctor said, "Hey, we're going to give you the absolute strongest antibiotic we've got." And now, of course, I was 18 years old. I got over it, whatever, you know, it seemed to resolve, even though on my left shoulder where the vaccine was and all that, it seems I've always had left shoulder issues. But, and then maybe a possible alcohol poisoning might have put the cap on this, where I started just having a lot of digestive issues. Sought help from many different practitioners. In fact, about 15 years ago, I was on a vacation in Vietnam and I found out about this eighth generation herbal doctor. And I went to him, he put his fingers on my pulse and he's like, "Wow, your liver's hot." And I said nothing about having any liver or gallbladder symptoms. He goes, "Wow, your liver's hot." I couldn't use his protocol because I was traveling and it just gave me horrible diarrhea and it just didn't work. But been to another uh, practitioner here at Cairo that did CRA, contact reflex analysis.
Yep.
He said, "You've got a gallbladder issue. Here's standard processed AF beta food. Stay away from, you know, nuts, seeds, fatty foods, skin, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And pork products, can't even come near them." And still to this day. Now, I found some help with those products, but over time, it's just, you know, it's still there. It's still my core issue, and I still need to get this.
Yeah, so here's you know, I talk about this a lot. You know, the most overlooked thing, in my opinion, in all of bariatric medicine is not the gut microbiome. It is not food allergies. It's not food sensitivities. It's not disease or pathology. It is the pace of the gut. Okay, you have to think of your intestinal tract as a 30-foot long conveyor belt, right? We drop contents on it at one end as they exit the stomach. 30 feet later, they exit the rectum. Yes, it is 30 feet long. And the pace of that conveyor belt is extraordinarily important. I always use the analogy that if you walked into any factory in the world that used a conveyor belt system and you just doubled the speed of the conveyor belt, you would watch that entire factory break down. And now when the factory called the colon or the small intestine breaks down, we immediately go to food allergy, food sensitivity, gut microbiome. And I'm not saying that those are not things we should test. What I am saying is that someone that's been on this journey as long as you have very likely is suffering from a motility issue and not a pathological issue, which would have been discovered by now. So my suggestion would be to do the genetic test. I can have my team drop the link in the show note, in the chat below. And once you see what deficiencies you have, supplement for those deficiencies. When your results come back, it will be very specific about what you need. Trimethylglycine, hydroxycobalamin, right down to the form of B12 that's best for your body. So this has a tendency to bring tremendous relief, because when your body is deficient in certain raw materials, it doesn't have what it needs to do its job. Motility pauses, contents putrefy, things back up. You go from intermittent constipation to potentially diarrhea, to sometimes cramping, to sometimes bloating, and it does not seem to correlate with your diet. So
in my case, it's like if I did eat pork products, like within 15 to 30 minutes, I would be in there with a painful elimination, and it would usually take twice.
That's a true allergy. That is exactly how allergies behave. What
And
happens
then
is
my gallbladder would really hurt. In fact, my gallbladder hurts now. It's tight. I had a gallbladder attack maybe 3 weeks ago. And of course, I've been through the HIDA scan and the ultrasound, and they say, oh, you're all clear.
that's exactly why I think it's a motility issue and not a physiological issue, because a physiological issue would have already been spotted. You already know what you're allergic to and what you're sensitive to. So you're far down the road on sensitivity, allergy, and physiology. So now the question is, what else is left on the table if you don't have an anomaly in your gut, if you don't have a food allergy, or you don't have a food sensitivity? Two things are left: gut motility, the pace of your gut, and your gut microbiome. So again, I'm just going to go back to what I said before. I would recommend that you get the genetic test, or at least talk to your physician about the genetic test. You might be able to get your insurance to cover it. And I would begin to supplement for those deficiencies. The ones that are the most chronic, like the ones that you're naming, are usually from undernourishment of very specific nutrients like 5-methylfolate, hydroxycobalamin, trimethylglycine. When you know exactly what you're deficient in and you supplement for that deficiency, this is when you could potentially see life-changing magic happen in your gut.
Where would the gallbladder pain then be coming from all these years?
Poor intestinal motility. So what happens is, as the stomach discharges through the pyloric sphincter and you enter an area called the duodenum, that area is meant to be an area of high acidity. It's just been discharged by the stomach. And it's also meant to move quickly out away from the gallbladder. When contents pause because of a motility issue at the gallbladder, you have a hypersecretion or hyperconcentration of bile. When you have a hyperconcentration of bile, it actually irritates the gallbladder, and it backs up into something called the hepatoportal duct. I'm not saying this is exactly what's happening in your case, but what I am saying is gut motility, this is critical, can lead, it may not be the exact cause, but it can lead to every symptom that you described in your question here and everything that you've said so far. So the reason why the gallbladder can cramp, there are lots of reasons, but pausing of contents in the small intestinal tract commonly leads to gallbladder attacks and gallbladder pain. Then further down the digestive tract, you get gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, irritability, or cramping, unrelated to what you're eating. So if that sounds like what you have, which it does, my suggestion is going to be the same. I would really recommend that you get the genetic methylation test done, and I would recommend that you supplement for those deficiencies.
Wonderful. I will definitely do that.
Awesome.
I was thinking taking an MRCP to see if still there's something else going on in there, but the VA, it's kind of hard to get some things done at the VA. So
yeah, I would do genetic methylation testing. You've already done physiology, sensitivity, and allergy. So the next stop is methylation testing for motility.
Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
you can see how that doctors are saying, "Oh, you're a classic gallbladder case because you can't eat oils and fats and skin and all that, and it's reactive."
Which you can't if you have a pause in your intestinal motility.
Yeah.
You will have, not only will you have gallbladder attacks, you'll have the downstream consequences that I talked about earlier.
Wow. Interesting. I appreciate it so much. This is great.
You got it, brother.
Yeah. Love.
Okay, I'm going to try to keep these under 5 minutes so I can get to as many of these as possible. I don't like to leave people hanging and answer thoroughly. I know if somebody has a question, you probably have the similar question, but I'm really going to try to keep these to under 5 minutes so we can get through as many of these as possible. All right, let's fire the next one up. Hi there, this is Deborah. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, I'm so grateful to be here. So listen, when you and
Grateful to have
Dr.
you.
Axe talked about acting as if you have cancer every day, I was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia in 2011. I am 65. I've done the routes of naturopathic doctors, seeing 3 of them. I'm very diligent about looking after my health. So I have the slowest growing version, which I understand CLL is the most common form of cancer. I have had 0 treatment for CLL, no chemo, no radiation, no medication. I'm on zero alcohol, no drugs, no tobacco. I have removed all my metal fillings. I did over the years series of parasitic cleansing, mold and heavy metal cleansing. I do monitor my lymph nodes daily, monitor my digestive daily. I take a whack of supplements and herbs like NAC, liposomal glutathione, kelp, dandelion, pre and probiotics. So here's some of my focus that I'm looking at. Boosting the red blood cells. They're slightly on the low side. Stimulating the healthy growth of white blood cells. Wanting to produce unmutated lymphocytes because they say they can't tell what percentage of my lymphocytes are mutated. I want to boost my mitochondrial health. And I'm curious about what you had mentioned in the previous calls, the GOP1 for hemoglobin. So, sorry, series of questions.
I'm going to go to the whiteboard because this is going to answer a lot of questions for people. So first of all, great series of questions. I'm going to go here. I'm going to draw you guys a diagram because a lot of you are having, maybe not exactly the symptoms that you're having, but I'm going to draw a tree here. Okay. And again, I always give the disclaimer that I am a scientist and not an artist, but that's a tree. Okay. So up here in the top of the tree are things like energy, right? Like I'm low on energy, Gary. Like I just feel tired all the time. And I'm just sort of low on energy. I'm going to get to your question about boosting red blood cells in a second. So everything that you perceive about energy in your body is nothing more than oxygen in your blood. So if you told me, Gary, I had a lot of energy today, physiologically what you're saying is I had a lot of oxygen in my blood today. So if oxygen equals energy, which it does, then if I want to raise your energy, I need to raise the amount of oxygen in your blood. So now I'm going to trace this all the way back down into the roots. So if I want to raise the amount of oxygen, I have to ask myself, what carries oxygen in the body? Well, that's a red blood cell and hemoglobin. So remember, a red blood cell is like a tennis ball, right? Hemoglobin is like the fluid that's inside the tennis ball, and the oxygen is bound inside that fluid. So if you decrease the number of red blood cells, or you decrease the amount of hemoglobin inside that cell, you see how much less fluid there is to carry oxygen? This is why you're tired or fatigued or get worn out easily, and it can hide in plain sight, right? So now the question is, to your specific question, how do I raise my red blood cell count and how do I raise hemoglobin? I go down the tree to the factory that makes red blood cells and hemoglobin, which is the bone marrow. How do I get the bone marrow to increase its production of red blood cells? I go down the tree to the hormone testosterone. So testosterone in men and women, the primary role of that hormone is not male characteristics. It's not facial hair, aggression, deep voice, big muscles. It's none of those things. The primary role of testosterone is to put pressure on the bone marrow to make new red blood cells. It's called erythropoiesis. As the bone marrow makes more red blood cells and raises the number of red blood cells and the amount of hemoglobin, you increase the amount of oxygen and therefore the amount of energy you have. The one thing I would definitely say is please talk to your endocrinologist before you start hormone therapy with CLL. There are some that are okay with it and will monitor you, and some that are come to a full stop, especially with estrogen. But we are talking about testosterone. Before you take testosterone, men and women, we need to go further down the tree and say, why would I be low on testosterone, especially if I'm not advanced in age or have any kind of chronic conditions, I'm living a relatively healthy lifestyle. We want to look for the level of DHEA in our blood, okay? DHEA is the precursor for testosterone. Testosterone is made from this compound. Very often, people are floored out in DHEA. What does DHEA come from? Vitamin D3. So, if you are low on vitamin D3, low on DHEA, you will be low on testosterone, full stop. If you have clinically deficient D3 and clinically deficient DHEA, you will have clinically low testosterone, which means you will not have the pressure on the bone marrow to make the red blood cells and the hemoglobin to carry the oxygen, and you're tired all the time. This is how energy works in the human body. This is what we call the biometric chain. So it could be as simple as optimizing the level of D3 and optimizing the level of DHEA before you consider hormone therapy. If not, if you're a male and you have testicular insufficiency, what we call primary hypogonadism, then obviously you can talk to your doctor about taking the hormone testosterone. But 70% of the clients that I used to see for hormone therapy that qualified for hormone therapy didn't need hormones. They needed the nutrients required to build hormones. So that is the one place that I would start. And I would definitely talk to your endocrinologist or your functional medicine doctor about whether or not they're comfortable with testosterone, but only after you have tested these other deficiencies.
Okay, I take K2, D3, like whack of supplements. I want to take some of yours that you're recommending, but what is the version of D3K2 that you would recommend taking?
So there's a few. There's one that I designed at 10X Health. So you can actually get it at 10X Health, or you can get it on Amazon. It's the 10X Health version of vitamin D3 with K2. I also sometimes will take a liquid version by Alkamind, Alkamind, Alkamind. It's actually in an oil. So D3 is a fat soluble vitamin. So remember the phrase, put your vitamins in the attic, ADEK. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat-soluble vitamins. They have to be taken with food. Okay, so remember, if you're taking a D3 supplement and your vitamin D3 is still low, it's probably because you're not taking it with food.
Okay. I think you've answered my questions. And
yes. Okay, and we kept it to 5 minutes too, so that's great.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I got 30 more hands to get to, and I'm determined to get to all you guys. It says Greg.
Yeah, that's my husband. We've been doing this together.
I was going to go out on a limb and say you don't look like a Greg.
No, I'm not. So I guess more it's me today that I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, I lived in my parents' house, obviously, for, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years, when they bought this house. And when they went to remodel, we found out there was like really intense black mold. And I think that maybe it's like flowed into some of the issues that I'm having now as an adult.
No question.
And so I'm curious if the mold might have, I guess, binded really well to my cells and my molecules to cause seizures and anxiety, possibly.
Anxiety, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Mold toxicity is highly, highly linked to anxiety, especially adult onset anxiety. So, first of all, remember, I talk about anxiety a lot. Anxiety is a rise in a category of neurotransmitters called catecholamines. They are fight or flight neurotransmitters. When your body is trapped in fight or flight, what we call a sympathetic state, you are in a state of always being anxious, which gives way very easily to anxiety. You will have a tendency to have ruminating thoughts at night. You'll have a tendency to, when you consider scenarios, to take it to a worst case scenario. There are three big components that go along with this. Number one is significant water retention, because it also throws off your estrogen. So if you have mold mycotoxin poisoning, it will throw off the elimination of estrogen, what we call phytoestrogens. The primary role of estrogen in men and women is to bind water. It has a lot of other roles, but in pregnancy, for example, estrogen goes from in the 400s to in the 4000s. Why does a female's estrogen go to 10 times higher during pregnancy? To bind water, pad the uterus, and protect the fetus. Post-pregnancy, we don't want excess estrogen because it just binds water and we get very bloated. So, or puffy. We think that we're fat. We're not. We're actually water retentive. So estrogen dominance is a key sign. Frequent colds and flus is a key sign. So, being very susceptible to seasonal flus or seasonal allergies. But there's no question that it could do that. I would really recommend, if you can, if it's in the budget, to get the Vibrant Wellness Test. I would bet my entire career you are going to see an entire family of aflatoxins. And those are the ones that have the specific outcomes you're referring to.
Okay. And then my other question is, Dr. Axe talked about how milk thistle is good for people who have PCOS.
Yes,
and
it is.
By what you just said, I'm assuming that the mycotoxin poisoning from the mold could also be causing those issues.
No question. So polycystic ovarian syndrome is a syndrome where you actually have cystic formation through the uterine wall, right? And sometimes you get things called fibroids.
Right.
They can do fibroidectomies. A lot of time they actually recommend a full hysterectomy, which in my opinion is not a great idea. Again, I'm not an OBGYN, but I don't like just throwing organs out because we can't figure out what's wrong with them. So let's just clean them out and toss them. It's like thyroidectomies are very common in people that have thyroid issues before we actually even try to get to toxicity. So taking organs and throwing them in the trash is sort of a last resort. So I have seen polycystic ovarian syndrome. In fact, I did a podcast with a client of mine who had polycystic ovarian syndrome at 24. At 25 and a half, she had no more cysts in her ovaries. So mold, mycotoxins, and parasitic infections, which will be tested on that on that full detox panel, and then getting rid of those things. Remember, if you're still menstruating, every month the uterine wall will slide off, right? And you'll excrete it. So think of it like a meat slicer, right? And having a cyst in the wall of the uterus, but slowly slicing this thing like a meat cleaver through this cyst until you actually get the fresh tissue, which has pushed that, those cysts or those fibroids out. So we have to stop them from forming. And then as they move towards the interior wall, then the wall sloughs off, kind of like slicing deli meats. You can eventually slice through, for lack of better words, those fibroids and actually no longer have the fibroids or the cyst. I would absolutely be starting with mycotoxin testing.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Such a great to talk to you. So great to talk to you. Sorry. I've been talking for too long. David. How you doing, buddy? You're muted.
I'm unmuted now.
Okay, there, you're unmuted now.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
So got a question for my wife. She was taking red rice,
Red yeast rice,
red yeast rice, and berberine, and she had a seizure, and her cardiologist thinks she may have long QT, and I just didn't know if that is something that a detox would help or.
So long QT wave, or like upside down T waves on an EKG, EEG. I'm not personally familiar with their connection to red yeast rice or CoQ10s. And so I'm a little bit surprised by that. I am not a cardiologist, so I won't say that that's a core competency or core expertise of mine. Cardiac arrhythmias, however, and cardiac anomalies are highly related to toxicity. Especially when you have cardiac anomalies where they're of unknown origin. So normally, history of normal EKG, EEG, heart sounds, lung sounds, and other advanced testing, dye contrast studies, cardiac catheterizations, and then all of a sudden a cardiomyopathy or cardiopathology. In many cases, those are acute toxicities, and in some cases, they're the chronic buildup of toxicities. I truly believe that if you've made it to adulthood without any of these toxins, you are the vast exception to the rule. I mean, including myself. I'm 54, I'll be 55 in September. I'm about as conscious as I have ever been in my adult lifetime about my air, my water, my food, my environment, my regular daily habits. And yet I still got critical metal poisoning, and I had chronic mold toxicity. The world is just, sadly, just a toxic place right now. Our food supply, our farming practices, the depletion of the nutrients in our soil. Nothing that I'm aware of in our detox protocol would be contraindicated for your wife, but I would actually give your physician the manual, have him parse through it. Vitamins, minerals, amino acids, hydration, defecation, sweat, sunlight exposure, grounding, breath work. None of those things, again, in my opinion, are contraindicated for upside down T waves or other cardiomyopathies.
Yeah, we did a gene test through sequencing.
Okay.
And so she didn't have any of the sudden cardiac genes, sudden cardiac death genes.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to figure it out because they want to put in a defibrillator, and she's trying to figure out what is the best course of action.
Well, I mean, one of the things that can throw off sinoatrial node communication are, toxins. So the two nodes of the heart, the SA, the AV node, these little electrical impulses that go back and cause the four chambers of the heart to beat in a certain sequence, and then finally the left ventricle to eject blood into the aorta. That electrical sequence is very sensitive to mycotoxin poisoning. If you actually look up mycotoxin and cardiomyopathies or cardiopathologies, you will see the clinical studies linking mold mycotoxin and in very in less frequent cases acute viral infections to cardiomyopathies, especially electrical myopathies between those two nodes of the heart.
She had the flu. She had a virus and the flu at the same time.
There you go. Yeah. So I would really be considering talking to your doctor about letting you, do these or supporting you getting the this Vibrant testing. I would also really consider talking to your doctor about a full, complete viral panel.
Where do you find a functional cardiologist or functional electrophysiologist?
Where are you located?
We're up in the Panhandle of Florida.
Okay, so I know a good one, Dr. Ram Dandalaya, who is he's in cardiothoracic surgery at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. If you use my name, he'll take your call right away. He's an excellent cardiologist. He's a practicing cardiothoracic surgeon and is very, very familiar with what we're talking about. He does things like plasma exchange and I would say non-conventional from a cardiologist standpoint approaches to electrical myopathies. I would really think about reaching out to Dr. Ram Dandalaya.
How do you spell that last name?
Dandalaya. Dandalila.
Okay.
Dr. Ram Dandalaya.
Okay.
His first name is Ram, like Ram truck, R-A-M.
Okay. Yeah, my sister, unfortunately, she passed away from primary pulmonary hypertension, but that was her hospital in LA.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, I don't know if Dr. Dandelion was there at that time, but he's who I would really think about.
Okay.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Great.
And then,
Great.
So you mentioned mycotoxins. So I had mold toxicity probably 10 years ago and did the chelation, the vitamin C therapy, the chelation, and then cholestyramine to and antifungals, and we were able to knock it out in like 6 weeks. But
That's good. I did the same thing.
yeah, it was
That's
pretty. It was
the whole
pretty.
thing. Look, that's the whole reason for like this VIP group and this challenge and everything is like not to build all this fear that like you're going to die of viruses, mold, and mycotoxins, heavy metals. It's to not die of those things. It's
Right.
that we can find them, we can clear them, get them out, and go on with our lives. Right? It's just a number one to bring awareness. I was shocked how many people joined up to the challenge and was like, I never even knew you could test for these things. I never even really. I've heard of them, but I never even knew they existed. So one is bring the awareness, then test, and then talk about like, it's a relatively easy, like you're not checking into a hospital, you're not having to get on a crippling pharmaceutical. A lot of these are lifestyle changes. That's why I show you my own labs and show you the labs of other clients, because it gives people hope that, man, this way that I'm feeling, maybe even the condition that your wife has an underlying cause. And if the cardiologist can't give you the underlying cause, please stay on the search. Dandelion would be great for you to.
I appreciate that. And then my daughter has Lyme disease. She's been fighting Lyme she's been sick for 8 years, and we found out 2 years ago she has Lyme.
Well, if you want help with Lyme disease, I would contact Dr. David Minkoff.
Okay. I've been following. She's actually at a clinic in Georgia called, but she's done the SOT treatment.
Okay, great. That's phenomenal for Lyme, chronic Lyme.
Lyme
doesn't behave like a virus, right? It behaves like a neuroinflammatory condition. It's one of the few viruses that hides in the dorsal root ganglion. So really, it takes a specific expertise to treat.
She has Babesia, and so the functional doctor we just talked to wants my wife to get
co-infection from
tested.
Lyme. Yeah. Borrelia and Babesia, those are Lyme co-infections. So she still has an active infection.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
You got it.
Bye.
Sorry to get so sciencey, guys. I love your glasses. Hi,
Hello.
Brittany.
Hi, Gary.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm looking at you, looking at me, and your mirrored glasses. Kind of freaking me out.
I'm in our gym hiding from my children. So
trust me, the glasses aren't going to do it. They still know you're wrong.
I know they do. They know where to find me. Well, my main question is, a couple of VIP calls ago, you said that you were going to choose people and bring them up with you and walk through their stuff with the VIPs. How do we raise our hand for that?
Raise your hand for it right now.
Right here, raised.
Yeah. Okay. What do you have going on?
Well, I'll give you the short version because I only got 5 minutes, but I have had all sorts of issues since I was a kid. I was a C-section birth, but I had asthma, allergies growing up. I was diagnosed with PCOS when I was younger, yet I always had really low testosterone, like literally non-existent. And like just weird stuff. I was a college soccer player, but like super tired, like always bloated, inflamed. I ended up having compartment syndrome in my lower extremities and my forearms, like chronic compartment syndrome. Had fasciotomies for that 3 different times.
Wow.
Yeah. And just weirdness. Like I have Raynaud's. But I do all the things. I red light every day. I do all of your recommendations, like hydrogen, sauna. I mean, you name it. So I have all this crazy stuff going on, and yet I still like have this chronic sinus problem, etc. So I just got my total tox.
These are cases that I love. I mean, don't take that the wrong way. I don't like that people are in this condition,
I'm
but
glad
I like
someone loves it.
chronic difficult cases to solve. Have you done Vibrant Wellness testing?
Yes. So I just did the total tox test, and I was actually really shocked. So I had things off the charts that I didn't expect. So I've been in the crunchy biohacker world for 10 plus years. I mean, doing all the things. And I had like BPA was off the charts and like just weird things But so one of my questions was, I have 4 little kids, 7 and under. So I've been pregnant and or breastfeeding literally straight for almost 8 years combined. And so I haven't really been able to focus on myself or detox or any of that stuff because of that. But I'm finally like past that stage of life. Are these things that can stay in your system for that long? I mean, I literally don't use plastics. We don't. I mean, like I was shocked.
Yes, mycotoxins. Unless you are specifically binding to get rid of microplastics, which are tough. EBO2 and therapeutic plasma exchange are the only ways that I'm aware of to get microplastics out of your bloodstream. that I'm aware of. Yeah,
Well,
because
and
they
that
don't
was
have a charge. Microplastics are they're very inert. So unlike a metal where you can use a chelating agent to attract it, a plastic isn't like attracted to bind to anything. And so filtration is the main way to get them out of the body. Lumati hemodetox, therapeutic plasma exchange, and EbO2, which is the extracorporeal ozone with filtration. Those will drop your levels dramatically each time you do them. So those are the times where you actually do have to step up and get, go to a clinic and get one of these modalities. The other things like the mold mycotoxins, metals, parasites, viruses, we can do those a lot more naturopathically, but bisphenols, the BPAs, which if you saw mine, were high on mine back in the normal range now, I attribute that to EbO2.
What about regular ozone IVs? So that was my other question was I'm fortunate enough, I have an ozone machine in my house and my best friend is a DO.
Gosh, good for you.
We actually did an ozone IV the day before I took my total tox test. And I'm wondering if that caused a, reaction, basically, like it all came out.
No, it won't cause a Herxheimer
Really?
reaction. It wouldn't cause a Herxheimer reaction that would elevate the levels, if that's what you're thinking. No, it actually might even decrease the levels because
you don't think it would provoke it?
Ozone is a non-provocating agent.
Yeah.
Chelating agents are provoking. Ozone is actually neutralizing. So that third oxygen molecule will actually neutralize a free radical, not provoke a free radical. So there's a difference. Chelating agents draw them out of tissue. Ozone actually reduces them, hits them like a missile, and neutralizes them. So if anything, it would actually throw your test off in the other direction. It would actually make your results look better than
great.
So ozone is phenomenal. If you want to attack the bisphenols, you are going to have to do some form of filtration or plasma exchange.
Okay, so the regular ozone IVs aren't going to cut it.
They're great for mold, mycotoxin, metals, viruses. They are not so good at all for bisphenols because so far there is nothing that attracts and binds a microplastic. Which is what you're talking about. BPAs are bisphenols. So the next, whenever somebody comes out with a supplement to get microplastics out of the body, that's going to be the next big billionaire in the world. I know folks in labs that are working on it now using inert binding agents, but I haven't seen anything to work other than blood filtration. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for your question. Amazing. Sam? Oh yeah, dude. What's up?
Hey Gary, how
You've
you
been here
doing?
for a while. Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, good to see you. So I'll be quick. I have this weird thing going on. I'm a very healthy guy. I've always been very health conscious what I eat. I've always had good skin, take care of my skin. So I have this weird, it's like a rash and a kind of like an acne breakout that's been happening on and off for the past few months. It's only on my left cheek, only right here. And I go to Southwest Ranches farmers market all the time to get my dairy and eggs. I've tried cutting that out to try because it's like a lymphatic thing is kind of what I found.
I'd be surprised if it's lymphatic. So this looks like a trigeminal neuralgic pattern. Right here in front of your ear is a nerve ganglion called the trigeminal nerve, and it sort of branches out almost like a spider on your face, right? When you get viruses in that trigeminal nerve, like a shingles, it actually manifests itself very much like what you're seeing right there.
And because it pops up the same spots. It'll pop up.
Okay, so that's the distal tip of the nerve. So if you look under the skin, you would see a branch, and then you would see the nerve flaring out. And this seems to be right around the nerve ending. If that were me, and again, I can't say this with 100% certainty, but that looks very much like a trigeminal neuralgic reaction. So a virus in the trigeminal nerve, something like a shingles virus. Shingles, people think about it around the trunk, which it very often does attack the trunk, but shingles can also appear in the face. You can look that up. I would actually ask your dermatologist about a trigeminal neuralgia or shingles, and look to see if you have that facial virus. And then I would just start an antiviral. That it looks classic viral to me, not classic contact dermatitis. Again, I'm not a physician, but it doesn't look like a classic contact dermatitis. And the fact that you have the exact same pattern, the exact same time, tells me that it's the same stimulatory source. And when you have those neuralgias, you get that skin inflammation, you get the dermatomyositis. You can even get peeling. It can itch. It can burn. It can sting. So that is definitely neuronal, and the leading cause of that would be virus.
Okay, so that's nothing to do with like what I'm eating or anything like that.
I'd be very surprised because those are systemic, right? So, like if you eat shellfish and you have an allergy to shellfish, both of your arms itch, your armpits itch, your groin might itch. You might get a rash on your chest. You very, very infrequently, when you're having an allergic reaction, have a focal allergic reaction, unless it is a contact dermatitis, something that touched, you have a latex sensitivity. For example, if you put a latex glove on your right hand, you'll have this rash on your right hand. But when you have a systemic infection that's going to manifest itself in the skin, you rarely, if ever, do you have a focal outcome to a systemic infection. And so I would be very surprised if it's something in your diet, because that would cause itching, rashes, redness. You would get like a butterfly rash. You get red ears. If you drink sulfites and wines and your ears turn red or your face gets flush, these are not focal areas of the body. When you have a hyperfocal area of the body, and then you have paresthesias, tingling, numbness, burning, itching, redness, that's generally will involve the root, the nerve root, and my suspicion, if I were you, is that it is a trigeminal neuralgia, and it's a viral infection of the trigeminal nerve. That's my non-medical approach to that. I bet you're going to find that you either have a topical or an internal viral infection.
Is it usually like take a medication for it, or
ivermectin, fenbendazole, or anti-viral dermatological creams like a topical ivermectin cream, which is amazing for these.
Cool.
Yeah, I would talk to your doctor about topical ivermectin cream. You might see it go like that.
Okay, good to know. I appreciate it.
You got it, brother. Great talking to you, man. Okay, we only got 15 minutes left.
Hello.
Okay. Hi, Melissa.
Hey.
Yeah, we've spoken about your husband in the past.
Yes, and some good things have happened, but some not so good things too. We made some headway that they will support me in things that I want to do, and they because their job there is to take these people and usher them through the rest of their life. They're not watching for the little things that I watch for and that I've taken care of David with for so long. So then they agreed, but I have to present it, and so I'll tell you the biggest things right now, so we can get to the nitty gritty of it, is the lisinopril. I know the lisinopril is a problem. I mean, number one, if his blood pressure is running from on the top 150 up to 179 on a routine basis, that tells me lisinopril's not doing its job. That's not lowering his blood pressure. We talked about so many things like me going ahead. I've got the TMG, everything that you said, and I'm ready to go. And I see the B12 is the thorn, and I'm thinking we go methylated with anything we give him B. And let me read something really quick so I can quickly explain it.
Can you go in my closet and grab me that TMG in the liquid bottle? I want to show her that. I'm actually going to show you a specific supplement. I just asked my team to grab it.
So the background on this is that David takes lisinopril for high blood pressure, and it causes a dry cough, which is bradykinin, we think that, and so which causes the phlegm to the site. They're the firemen. I learned that from you. He takes the phlegm in. He swallows the phlegm. It affects his stomach. So we have all of that and it worsens, but he also has lost so much weight that when we started giving the protein drinks we talked to you about, we do believe he's gained from 100. He walking around on this earth, he's 174 to 178, right? And then when he went into the wheelchair, he began to get down into the 60s and 160. Well, he lost down to 156 and they were concerned. But at the last meeting, they said he lost down to 130 something. And I said, there's got to be something wrong with that scale. Because when I had pneumonia and lost so much weight down to the 150s, he was light as a feather. But he doesn't move limbs now, so he's like a ton of bricks. So they after we started giving him the drinks, they re-weighed him, and he's up to 156 as of the middle of June. And that's good. It's either the weight machine was off or he's gained weight. We don't know which. So anyway, some of that is good. So now what I need to do is anything I need to do for him. Number one, they took him off lisinopril and I got 3 good blood pressure readings. Yes.
This, I specifically want you to write this down.
Okay.
This is a it's a trimethylglycine. It's a TMG liquid.
Right. Okay.
It's by Kirkman, Kirkman.
Okay.
Okay, that my team's going to zoom in on.
Yeah, now I can see it.
Not my product. I have it in my closet. So they are for really, really stubborn absorption clients. Because it's hard for them to absorb capsules. It's much easier for them to absorb liquids because the trimethylglycine is really good for the peripheral vascular constriction, but blood pressure regulation. Again, I'm not saying that's what's causing it. It's also really good to lower homocysteine, which is where you might see some circulation.
Now, how much do you give him of that?
Right here on the back, it will tell you exactly what to give per serving, which is 1 teaspoon, which is 5 milliliters. Yes. You can also do 5 milliliters. So very often, you can actually just take it and draw it into a syringe without the needle. And
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah,
because I do coconut oil and things like that because he's on thick liquids, and I'm trying not to thicken anything. But they're delivering his pills and vanilla pudding. That's how they get.
So that's why, precisely. Remembering our last conversation is why it triggered my memory to do that.
But here's the other thing: is that we think it's being complicated. With the stomach's not producing the raw materials it needs to build the proteins and things like that, in spite of the drinks, because he's not had unless that substantial weight gain.
Well, so that remember, the stomach doesn't produce the proteins. Let me just, so we don't get ahead of ourselves. The stomach doesn't produce the proteins. Okay, so the stomach acid will begin the process to break down proteins so that you can get amino acids. So, obviously stomach pH is thrown off for a whole host of reasons. So this is why all of his vitamins should be methylated. We should assume that he can't absorb anything. To the extent that you can use transdermal patches, sublingual, under the tongue, rapid dissolve tablets, or liquids, you're going to dramatically increase bio availability. Nothing is going to help more than movement. If he's healthy enough to just maybe get out in the sunlight a little bit outside every day, even if you have to wheel him out there. Hydration is critically important. Minerals are critically important. His intestinal motility is critically important because that's where nutrients are absorbed. So if you start looking at blood work and seeing like the proteins coming down and the calcium's coming down and the potassium's coming down, looking like he's malnourished, he's not malnourished, he's malabsorbed. And
that's what I thought.
Yes.
And I told them that that's what I thought it was. And I said, in the absence of a test, I think he's probably got, from listening to you, MTHFR or either MTRR, because it's in his upper gut. It's not in his intestines and anything that digests below. He's great bowel movements. He doesn't have any irregularities on the bottom side. So,
so let's try the liquids, the patches, the sublinguals. For now,
how do I know where to find them? Can y'all send me
I'll have my team send you some links to I'll send this one, and when they're done, I'll tell you where you can get like powdered versions of these, like an isotonics, so that you can actually get them in liquids rather than in pill or capsule form. Okay.
And you had mentioned an enzyme at one point, and I didn't know what kind, because remember, whatever enzyme can't be given to him in a capsule. So
yes, body health, the body health digestive enzymes come in a capsule that can be broken up and actually sprinkled on the food. You can actually put the live enzyme right into the food.
right into the,
He
okay.
won't taste it at all.
Okay.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Great.
He's doing so much better in that his color's back, and I'm thinking in my mind, I'm thinking he's probably really sort of misdiagnosed, because all of the Parkinson's patients that are in there are almost catatonic, and although he can't talk because he can't move his tongue, but he is aware of everything that goes around
I
him.
hope that we've done the viral testing on him. You know, please try to convince them to do viral pathogen testing, EBV,
Okay.
Epstein-Barr, cytomegalovirus, West Nile virus, you know, the big Lyme, the big viruses that create Parkinsonisms, not Parkinson's.
Right.
And
Well, we know
I
it.
can't
They
tell you
tell
how
us
many,
it's corticobasal degeneration, where the tau protein
which is
goes on
largely
itself.
can be, you know,
But
viral.
you
I'm
know
just
what the
saying,
answer
like,
to that is? We don't do anything else for you. You don't see a doctor. Nobody looks after you, you know, to see.
that's why it's just so critical. I would plead with them to allow you to do viral pathogen testing.
Okay.
Yeah, because the question is what's causing corticobasal degeneration, what is causing the neuropathies, what is causing the mood collapse, what is causing the low neuronal transmission speed, the neuralgias. I'm not a physician or a neurologist,
I know.
but
Yeah.
all of those are symptoms of chronic viral infections. I'm
Right.
not saying that he has one, but not ruling that out to me. If I had a loved one with advanced neuropsychiatric challenges like your husband, I would be pleading with the caretakers to get viral testing done there.
Okay, I will do that. And the other thing that factors into this, and it didn't dawn on me until we did this testing, and my son looked at the test and he says, "Mom, you're effed." So I got
We all know what that means.
done, but to get his done, I would have to figure out how to get a urine sample out of him without a catheter. I don't want to catheterize him. So
we can do all the viral testing can be done through blood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then okay, and then but
right.
we had a house with terrible mold in it one time, and we remediated it. So
Good.
I don't know how much that has anything to do with it. So we're looking
that Vibrant test could be just an incredible test for him. You know, the Vibrant test and Vibrant wellness and viral testing. You know, and all the people that are listening to this, if you have loved ones that are having neuropsychiatric issues, unexplained paresthesias, you know, these vision changes, things like that, like before you just accept that they have an unknown condition, you know, these 4 mold mycotoxins, parasites, viruses, heavy metals, I would be diligently doing that type of testing to say maybe there's an explanation, especially when an otherwise relatively healthy person just suddenly goes downhill. That is usually when the toxic load has reached the point where you're symptomatic. So I got to move on to some other questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. This is awesome that she's having some relief for her husband just, you know, by doing these. It's great. Okay. We're going to try to get to 2 to 3 more questions, guys. All right, fire it up. And then we get to pick the rest of the winners. Hi, Jess.
Hi. Sorry, I wasn't expecting to get called on. So I'm in a little bit of a shock right now.
Oh, that's cool.
I just wanted to say really quick before I say anything, it'll be super fast, but just that my dad's told so many people how you've actually saved my life.
Really?
I had 5 panic attacks. Sorry.
Oh.
I used to have 5 panic attacks a day, really bad anxiety. People told me it was in my head. And I actually had the MTHFR, MTR, and MTRR
wow.
mutation. So sorry, let me bring that back. So I was actually your top 1% of listeners last year on Spotify.
Were you really?
Yeah. So all that to be said is I do everything you preach. I do everything that I know I should be doing. And then all of a sudden back in November, I was doing great. I was taking Optimize, doing all these things, and I noticed I started having I had my first panic attack in like 2 years. Pre-cycle, thought it was hormonal. I ended up working with she's called a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner. So she does like HTMAs, hormone Dutch panels, stuff like that.
Great.
Come to find out, I have copper toxicity, and I had 3 other heavy metals that she saw just from the hair test.
That's it.
So that makes so much sense. Now, my question for you is that one, I'm extremely sensitive. I remember, when I was a kid, I would have a bad day. My dad would tell me, "What did you eat? What did you take? What did you do?" Little things throw my body off in big ways. So, they tried having me take body bio PC. Horrible reaction. It lasted for about 3 weeks. Hive, red face. Mentally, the reactions were very crazy. Even little things, starting zinc at first threw my body out of whack. They even told me to get a GI map, did that. My stomach's very shot. I don't have any parasites, but I have almost no good bacteria, if even with being on a probiotic. So, I don't know. I guess my question is, I feel like this detox came at the perfect time for me specifically.
Yes.
Because
Perfect time for you.
everything you do, I trust wholeheartedly. So I'm very excited. But I guess just when it comes to heavy metal detoxing, one, what do you do when your body just can't handle it, especially coming from someone who sauna, sweating, I go to the bathroom, like even with my gene mutations, even with my gut problems, I go to the bathroom, I sweat, grounding so important to me, sunlight, breath work. I meditate every day, work out 4 or 5 days a week. I'm a very avid just lifestyle person. I balance my blood sugar, only eat whole foods, like I do all the things. So for someone like me to have such bad reactions trying to detox and to notice that the detox is working with my cycle, my detox actually hits me very hard in my luteal phase and causes just kind of what someone like me should do.
Way more common than you think. So first of all, great that you're doing all the things. It's probably why it's taken you 2 years to have a panic attack, and great that you found your methylation deficiencies. I love that the audience is hearing that, because people that are suffering from a similar condition to what you have very often feel like there's no hope, and you've gotten a few years of reprieve. What I would really suggest is the following. Number one, first of all, the testing is important. You can start very, very, very slow with detoxifying agents. So sweat is great, which you're already doing. Breathwork, meditation, great, which you're already doing. Grounding, which you're already doing. You can add, probably the easiest are the bentonite clays. They're completely inert. And then if you tolerate bentonite clay, I would go to a zeolite. Because the zeolite is the next most innocuous binder that actually has a specificity for heavy metals. So zeolite is usually a very, very gentle binder that people that have hypersensitivity, cell syndromes, very sensitive guts, they usually can tolerate the zeolites. So I would start with a bentonite clay, not a charcoal binder. I would move to a zeolite binder. If you tolerate the zeolite, I think the next thing to order is something called ToxyPrevent. ToxyPrevent, it's from Europe. You want to order their lower GI formula, because their lower GI formula is specific to metals and mycotoxins. But first, bentonite clay, zeolite, ToxyPrevent. That's how I would climb that ladder. Because what I don't want to do is what I wouldn't do if I were you, is put an aggressive binder that you could have a reaction to and then trigger, days or weeks of downstream consequences.
Sorry.
This is a hypersensitivity, probably because of a chronic infection that leads to something called mast cell syndrome. So it lights the immune system up, it lights up the histamines and the inflammatory factors and the cytokines in the body. And then this small step that you take to intervene has like days, and in your case weeks, of inflammatory consequences. So you have to start with something that is almost as inert as water, but has some absorbing capacity. And then you move to one that is a little more aggressive than water, has more absorbing capacity, and has a binder, an actual binder. And then you move from a binder to something that is more of a magnet.
I did want to mention that. So I did that in March. So I've been trying to detox since March.
Okay.
And I had my worst detox episode last cycle. During that part of my cycle got really bad. And I am on Pectasol, the citrus pectin binder. So I actually was on that. I was on 6 tablets twice, 3 times a day at first. And I actually started having like heart palpitations. So they cut it down to 1 3 times, and now I only take 1 at nighttime. I try to take it after the sauna.
Good.
But is that something that it's probably just not doing enough?
If you've had your first panic attacks are highly, highly, highly linked to mold toxicity. I will be shocked. In fact, I'll pay for your test if you do not have aflatoxins, ochratoxins, specifically ochratoxin A and aflatoxin B1, because if you went that long without having a panic attack and then all of a sudden started to have them, especially with your cycle, that is highly indicative of a mold mycotoxin episode. So the worst anxieties I have ever seen in my entire career were subsequent to mold and mycotoxin poisoning, especially in folks that have had anxiety all their life and it got increasingly more severe.
Yeah, that was
to the point where they had panic attacks followed by paranoias. So those are, some of the downstream consequences of severe mold and mycotoxin. And 99% of primary care physicians will tell you that that's complete nonsense and that's all in your head and that's voodoo science or witchcraft. I can assure you that it's not. Tens of thousands of patients have come through our clinic system. And while I did directly treat them, I observed all of that data. And severe mold and mycotoxin poisoning was direct. You could draw a straight line to the debilitating anxieties, panic attacks, and paranoias.
Okay, thank you so much.
Awesome. It was really great talking to you, and thank you for the kind words. Okay, one last one. We're going to get in here, and then we're going to fire up the winners for today, which I love giving stuff away. Hey, Jeff.
Gary, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. This is like chicken soup for my soul. I love this stuff.
Thank you. This challenge has been amazing, and you've changed my life in many ways. And I've been a VIP for 15 months.
Whoa! At least you might get the VIP Distance Award. Yeah.
So I really preach what you do, but the reason why I wanted to use the question today is it's for my father. So having kind of trouble getting him started on a healthy journey, but just to go really quick through some of the things he's dealing with. He's just over 70 years old. He's got arthritis in a lot of his joints, his knees, ankles, elbows, almost like migratory kind of arthritis. Sometimes one thing he's dealing with right now is his actual wrist and arm is all swollen. And kind of has throbbing pain in his wrist, and almost he can't even hold a fork or a toothbrush right now.
Wow.
It's that extreme. He's had skin issues in the past, asthma, and he deals with seasonal depression, bipolar, and he's a little bit overweight, right now at this point, and not as active as he should be. And he takes some medication. He takes medication for cholesterol, blood pressure, whatever. But he's worked for over 30 years with doing asphalt maintenance and latex paints and all that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if he picked up some heavy metals or things over the years. But basically, what I want to do is I want to kind of get him started. I want to find the things for him important to do, now that can kind of build momentum for him over time. And, I know there's a lot packed in there. And so it's it's hard to talk about everything, but in general, what he's dealing with the most right now is the inflammation and the swelling and kind of the pain in his arm. And that's kind of where we're at.
If you want to give him really immediate relief, like make him feel great in 20 minutes, to give him a window of what it might be like if he committed to this journey, there's 3 things I would do. Number one, in the morning, I would make him a big 8-10 ounce glass of water, Baja Gold Sea Salt, 3 hydrogen tablets. I would have him drink the entire glass the moment the hydrogen tablets had dissolved. Like it takes him about 50 seconds to fully effervesce while the glass is full of gas. Have him drink that back. And maybe the first time he feels a crash in inflammation in a very, very long time. The second thing I would do is I would think about, depending on your budget, getting an oxygen concentrator and only running it for 20 minutes on him in the morning. Or a hydrogen nano bath, which would literally change his life. You know, some of these companies may be willing to lease them to you if they're not in the budget. I know they're not cheap pieces of equipment. They can run $4,000 or $7,000. I don't even talk about this publicly, but the miracles that I've seen in hydrogen bathing for people with arthritis, knees, hips, shoulders, rotator cuff, inflammatory conditions, eczema, psoriasis, someone that has diffuse pain and inflammation, swelling like that. I've never seen anything in my career work like hydrogen bathing. It would be one of those things he would really like to do because he would feel so good getting out of that tub. But again, if that's not in the, if a concentrator or a nano bath is not in the, you know, I would definitely be having him on hydrogen tablets every morning, getting his microvasculature going. I would have him, you know, taking the perfect aminos and taking Baja Gold sea salt and hydrating just to hydrate, mineralize, and begin the flushing process in his body. And if you're going to start anywhere, I would probably start with a genetic methylation test and supplementing for those deficiencies, and then I would move to the, you know, Vibrant testing. I would actually do methylation before I did the Vibrant.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you,
So
Gary.
good talking to you. Thank you for being a VIP for so long. All right. Did we select the winners? Do I get to give them out? All right. So thank you guys for tuning into the live Q&A today. Now that I know you're all waiting for me to announce the giveaway winners, so let's do it. The Vibrant Test winner, Mary Ella, E-L-L-A. Can we bring her up? I love looking these people in the face. So Mary, congratulations. Oh, there you are. Hi, Mary, you're muted.
Hi.
Oh, hi. So my team said you had a great story. So thank you for sharing that with us. You won the Vibrant Wellness Test, so I'll make sure that we connect with you there and we start on this journey with you. Did you just become a VIP?
I did the day before.
So a lot of you guys are getting like a 5x return on your money. It's like the best thing. So you're beautiful. We're excited to have you on here. Thank you for trusting us, and I'm excited to be on this journey with you. Congratulations. All right. Talk to you soon. Okay, now for the winners of the Detox bundles. I gave one away, didn't I? Okay. I gave it to Mike Weiland. Okay, so Mike, you got your Detox. Katerina Ranieri. Oh, hey,
wow,
Mike.
hey, what's up, brother?
You're a winner, dog.
Thanks, my man.
Yeah,
and I wanted
you're
to say, I just wanted to express, I've been a member just a short time, but I've already been using a lot of your protocols. I'm super grateful, man. Much gratitude, and God bless you. Truly.
Oh, that's really kind of you, man. Well, enjoy your detox protocol, man. I'm excited to be on this journey with all of you guys. You know, being a part of some of these life-changing moments, it's like, it's literally chicken soup for my soul. I get goosebumps, you know, on these a lot. So thank you for the kind words. Katerina Ranieri. I hope I'm saying that right. Hi, Katerina.
I'm so excited. I'm actually crying. So thank you.
Well, your story moved my team, and it moved me, and so congratulations. Thank you for being a VIP. Thank you for trusting us to go on this journey with you. I'm going to be excited to keep following your story, okay?
Thank you, and thank you for what you're doing too.
Oh, that's kind of you. Thank you, Katerina. And then Christopher Dimoh, D-I-M-O-H. Hey! Hold on, you're muted.
Muted. Okay.
Oh.
Yes, it's my son. It's my 12-year-old who always change my meaning name sometimes. So,
Well,
yeah. So Dominic Keller, and you answered one of my questions earlier.
oh, good. Well, congratulations. Enjoy the detox gift. We're going to follow your story. I'm going to follow all of your stories, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
Lastly,
you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. I love seeing the smile on people's face when their lives are touched, and this is a community of like healing and hope, and I want to build this into thousands of people. I want you to share these things with your relatives, your coworkers, your loved ones, because together, guys, we can really make a shift in humanity. So lastly, let's talk about the winner of the higher dose sauna blanket, Amber Williams. Amber, I am jealous of you. I want a sauna blanket. Is Amber still on? Amber, start your video so my team can bring you up so I can see your face.
Here, can you?
There you are.
Hey, I'm driving right now.
Oh, okay. So then, all right, you don't have to turn your camera on. I see your son there, like
My son's holding
Mom.
the phone now.
Well, congratulations, Amber.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll make sure that my team gets your contact information. It's a beautiful lay-in sauna blanket. So to recap, guys, you don't have to accept just feeling okay when you could feel incredible. The protocol that we covered today is not just about detox. It's about building like a foundation for lifelong health, vitality, cognitive performance. So knowledge without any action, like I say, it's just entertainment. That's why I love this VIP group. You get to see people that have had real change in their life. And now that you're joining, hopefully that inspires you to stick around and go on this journey. Don't forget that module 1 and just about to be module 2 of my 10-month Becoming the Ultimate Human course is live in your VIP. Don't miss out on that. I built that course to sell it for 10 grand, and I decided last minute I was just going to give it to the VIPs. So I hope that you find immense value from that. My team and I spent months and months planning, writing, filming, structuring that course. I really pulled every ounce of knowledge that I could out of my brain and put it into this 10 module course. It's free to you as a VIP, so please use that and give me feedback on it. The truth about what happens next, here's what I've learned about helping after I've helped thousands of people transform their health. The people who get results aren't the ones that have the most information. They're the ones with the best implementation system. That's why when I write these guides, I really am intentional about writing it as a guide. Remember, I say read it as a guide, not as a magazine. 3 months from now, there will be 2 types of people who went through this challenge. There'll be the type 1s that are still collecting information. They're still searching for the perfect protocol, still making excuses about why they can't start. They might even be in the VIP and they're just an observer. And then there'll be the second type that have followed the exact system we outlined. They're going to track their progress. They're going to work with qualified practitioners. They're going to do the tests that I'm recommending, and they're going to experience a massive transformation in their life. I hope you are part 2. And I try my best not to recommend things that are going to break your bank, that are practical things that you can implement in your life to really make a dramatic change. So this week, implement the complete 4-stage protocol. Track your symptoms and energy levels daily. There's a template in your portal. And continue your drainage support protocols from days 1 and days 2 of the challenge. It's in your guide. Order the functional lab testing from Vibrant if you haven't already. If it's a financial issue, wait until you have the money to actually find out what's going on inside your body. I don't want to push anybody to spend money that they don't have. This month, we're going to establish the daily routine as a non-negotiable habit. So that's the daily routine that we're learning. It just needs to be non-negotiable. Adjust your protocol based on the test results when you get them back. Track your biomarkers and the symptoms for progress monitoring, and consider some of the advanced modalities that you may have to get at a clinic if you have severe toxicity. And last but not least, this Friday, I'm releasing to you the 12-week metal and the 8-week mold guides in the community. On the left-hand side, it will be under protocols. This is free to you guys. Do not miss that. I worked really hard on that. So did my team. You'll get shopping lists, recipes, morning, midday, and afternoon plans, supplement guidance. So make sure you're and make sure you're using the discounts, because all of these vendors, I make them give discounts to my VIP group. So go under VIP discounts if you're going to get any of those supplements, and take advantage of the discount. Guys, thank you for an incredible 3 days. This is just the beginning. What we've covered through these 3 days is just the foundation, because here's the truth. The protocol works, but only if you use the protocol. Your health is your wealth. You know, like longevity is the new luxury. These 3 days were your investment in understanding. The community is your investment in implementation. Help each other, be active in the community, download the app, use the